Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Does that mean that you get 3 wishes? You do get 3 wishes. That's a known real life thing. Welcome one, welcome all. Howdy, howdy. I'm doing A-okay. Let's check how my audio is. All right, audio looks fine on that end. Welcome, welcome everybody. Whether you're on YouTube or TikTok, good to see you here. Hope everybody's having a good day. I know that, times are tough these days, but, we do the best we can. Make sure that wherever you're watching, you like the live so that we can get more people in here so we can have some conversations and you guys can see what you want to see. I'm doing all right. Evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you might be. Hope you're doing A-okay. What do you think, Alex O'Connor? He's a clever man. I've been posting every day, Britta. Do you believe you're smarter than some of the most intelligent people to have lived? Well, it depends on who you're putting in that category, right? Like, I'm definitely smarter than some people and dumber than other people. Depends on who you think are I mean, like, kind of by definition, I'm probably not smarter than the smartest people, but I suspect that we might disagree on who those people are, right? I was live yesterday. Reasoning for choosing atheism compared to agnosticism? Because I don't believe in God, so that's what it means to be an atheist. Like, you're either convinced of something or you're not. What would it take to convince me? Well, certainly saying look at the trees wouldn't be enough, and probably Jesus appearing in my living room would be enough. So something between a random preacher saying look at the trees and then Jesus appearing in my living room, it'll be something like that. When you're going to argue against flat earthers, I did that on Monday. You just don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Fortunately, it doesn't really take faith to be an atheist. Atheist is kind of like being an atheist is just kind of like a lack of a belief position, and so there's not really like you can have faith in some positive position, like you could have faith that the universe had a beginning that was naturally caused or something like that, but it's not really like a faith-based position. It's kind of strange to say that. Now, that doesn't mean that all religion is faith-based either. There can be people who've rationally convinced themselves that they should believe in some take on deism or whatever, or theism, but yeah, it's just a very weird claim. Heisenberg, Tesla, Faraday all believed in God. Okay, that's fine. Famously, Einstein didn't really. But also, you mentioned, also Tesla isn't one of the smartest people who ever lived, so it's a really weird claim. We have our first guest. Kyrie, how's it going?
It's good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I just want to make sure that your audio is coming through. You want to give me some audio, please?
Some what?
Just say something.
I'm Kyrie.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that
Okay.
came through clear.
Okay. Are you familiar with the contingency argument?
You have a contingency argument. Okay.
What? Can you hear me? It's delayed.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So you're gonna make a contingency argument, by all means.
Yeah. Okay. So you already said you're familiar with it, so let's just address your objections.
Yeah. Well, so it depends on what modality you're using when you refer to something being necessary versus contingent. Sorry?
The Leibnizian.
What's that word? Are you saying Leibnizian?
Okay, yeah. Leibniz. I'll just run
Okay,
it
okay.
real
So
quick.
I'm not familiar with Leibniz's
Yeah, I'll
version of
just
the
run it
argument.
real quick.
So if you
Yeah.
wanna summarize it, you can.
Yeah, okay. There are necessarily existing things, possibly existing things. If things have an explanation, they either have an explanation in themselves or they have an explanation in something external to them. You know?
Sure.
We go back, and then we arrive at the first explanation. Yeah.
Wait a
I
minute.
think you're
So
familiar with
where
it,
does the
so that's
contingency
fine.
come in? All you did was make the claim that if a thing has an explanation, then it either explains itself or it's explained by something else. Contingency doesn't come into that, right?
Why so? Explain yourself.
Well, it just wasn't connected. You gave some premises about contingency, and then
Yeah.
you said some
No,
separate
I
things about
summarized it,
explanations.
obviously. Yeah.
It seems
No,
unrelated.
it was I summarized it because I'm assuming you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
not the name.
The second bit I'm happy to agree with. If something has an explanation, then it's either explained in itself or it's explained by something else. Sure, I'm willing to grant that. But I'm still not quite sure what modality or what modal scope you're using to refer to when you say that things are necessary versus contingent.
What do you mean by modal scope?
So do you mean logically possible? So do you mean logically necessary or logically contingent? Do you mean like metaphysically necessary? Do you mean physically necessary? Like what?
No,
in what sense?
I think it's about logical necessity.
Okay, so why is it
Or
logically...
metaphysical, depends on...
So now the claim is well, if you say metaphysical and logical necessity are different things, right?
Yeah, I know they are different.
So which one are you using?
Right now, the logical one.
Okay, so your claim is that God is logically necessary?
Yes.
Okay, why should I believe that?
Yeah, well, he is logically necessary, but let me argue back. I think God is logically necessary, but you can only arrive at that conclusion after running the argument with the assumption that God is metaphysically necessary, so metaphysical necessity.
Okay, so can you define what metaphysical necessity is for me then?
Well, you have to arrive at God in this argument as the conclusion in order for everything else to work. It's not a presupposition.
Sure. So can you define what metaphysically necessary means?
Just has to exist in all possible worlds.
Okay, so what scope are you using for possible worlds? Are you saying logically possible worlds? Are you saying physically possible worlds? Because why? Okay, so now you have to walk. So hold up. So now you have to explain why. Now you have to explain to me why I should ever believe that God must exist in all logically possible worlds. Why should I believe that?
No. But as I said now, I think God. I think at the end, and English is not my native language, by the way. I think God is like logically necessary. Yeah, okay. Logically, I think he's logically necessary, but the argument I'm running, I'm assuming he's only metaphysically necessary.
But why should I believe he's metaphysically necessary, though?
Yeah, okay. So that's the argument. I'm gonna explain that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So hold up. So do you agree with like the premises, but you just doubt my presupposition?
Which premise do you want me to agree to?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really address any of my premises. You just said, what model do you use?
Well, yeah, because I couldn't address the premise if I don't know how you're using that word necessary. So is your premise
in a
that
metaphysical sense? Everything is metaphysically.
Okay, so and when you say metaphysical, you mean like in a logically possible world kind of way, right?
Is there any other way? I'm not familiar with.
Like if you ask 100 philosophers what their definition of metaphysical necessity is, they'll give you 100 different answers, right?
Is there like
I don't know if there's some consensus on this. Nobody ever uses metaphysically necessary in the same way. That's the only reason I wanted clarification.
Yeah, I mean, we could really just get rid of the terms, and I will just explain like in simple terms.
I mean, if by metaphysically necessary you mean exists in all logically possible worlds, then sure, we can work with that. So your claim is that everything is either necessary or contingent in a metaphysical sense.
Yes.
I think that's probably, and by contingent you mean not necessary, right?
Yes.
Okay, then that's just tautologically true. It's just a law of the excluded middle, right? So I agree that everything is either necessary or contingent. I also agree that if something has an explanation, then it either explains itself or it is explained by something external to it. I agree with both of those premises.
Okay. So okay. Have you studied formal logic, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so you agree with both premises. Okay, now we just let's take for example, I don't know, me and you. Okay, we must have explanations by our nature, right? If we are necessary, then our explanations must be in ourselves. If we are not, it must be external. We are not necessary. I think you would agree with that.
I'm not sure if that's. I don't know if that's something that I would agree with. No. Why is it the case that just because something is necessary, its explanation must be internal to itself?
Do you disagree with it? Or we just want people to just...
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're a necessitarian, if you think that all things are necessary, then you can have causally related things that you could have like one thing that causes another thing, but they're both necessary, right?
Okay. Are you a necessitarian?
I'm kind of agnostic on it. Like, there are some things that are some things about it that are convincing, some things about it that are less convincing. But I don't know why I should accept the premise that something that's necessary must be explained in itself.
Okay, so if I say that instead of like it must explain itself in itself, if I just say it doesn't have an explanation, would you?
Something that's necessary doesn't. No, I again, something that's like, if you have a necessary thing and some sort of causal relationship that's also necessary, then so imagine that you have A and B, and there are two, and A is necessary, and A implies B is necessary. Then B is necessary, but B's explained by A. So it's not like even if B is necessary, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have an explanation or that it's only explained in itself.
Okay, so do you think necessary existent thing must they could have an explanation too?
Yeah, sure. I just gave you an example.
Yeah, I see. But like even in your example, let's say A is necessary and A equals B, B equals C, and so on and so on. A still doesn't have an explanation in that chain.
I mean, sure, but this is just an example. I could have given you an explanation where A has an implication. But the point is I gave you a I give you a counterexample, right? So the counterexample means that the premise doesn't hold, at least not in all cases.
Yeah, so I think the debate is about infinite regression right now.
No, I just don't even I just don't even accept your premise, because you can have something that is necessary but is caused by something else that's necessary. There's no issue there, which just means that necessary things have causes.
I agree. And that's why I understand your point. And let's say you have something that is necessary, okay? And if that necessary thing is caused also by another necessary thing, right?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Do you think there is other options?
I can't come up with any reason why it wouldn't be true, so sure, I'm willing to grant that.
Okay. I don't want to get into like semantics. I just want to make sure.
No, I'm just saying, I can't see any issue with that.
Okay. Then we would go back like, let's say it's like B, or let's say it's B, then B was caused by A was caused by Z, Z was caused by that, and then we would get into infinite regression or stop at some point, right?
Or it could cycle around, right?
Do you think that's possible?
Well, look, so as far as explanations go, there's only ever three possibilities for some sort of explanation. There's either a series of explanations that terminates, there's an infinite regression of explanations, or there's a circle of explanation. That's how those are the only three options that you have.
Yeah, but the circle must have an explanation too.
The circle, you're saying the circle itself must have an explanation? Or the circle's not a thing?
Let me rephrase it. Yeah, I will rephrase it. Before I asked you, you said like if something is necessary, then maybe it has probably it has an explanation, and that thing can be necessary too, right? Like A is necessary, and then B, and then C, even if that's in a circle of like necessity where everybody is necessary, the circle itself of the necessary things must have an explanation too. Not must, but it probably has an explanation too. Do you agree?
I mean, maybe. Like, I mean, look, so like we agreed upon, or like I
Yeah.
just said, I don't know if you agreed with it.
Mm-hmm.
Some things, so there are three ways to explain
Yeah.
something. Either something terminates in that there is no explanation at the end, or there's an
Yeah.
infinite regressive explanation, or there's a cycle of explanation. So if you think
No,
that the
no,
circle is the kind of thing that requires explanation, maybe it just doesn't have one. Maybe it's the
I
kind of thing
I
that is
reject
the end of the sequence.
I reject the circle explanation because when you arrive at the
You there? Where'd he go?
okay, so I'm saying I reject the circle explanation as like a different option because the circle one is just saying we get at a point where something explains everything but doesn't have an explanation in itself. It's just a circle right here.
Well, it's a circle,
So-
but everything in the circle is explained. Oh, where'd he go?
Yeah, okay.
Welcome back.
So, no, we don't disagree, just semantics. You're saying maybe everything could be explained by the circle, and the circle does not have an explanation itself, right?
I don't know if the circle's a concept. It's not like a thing. It's not like a
Yeah.
I don't know if
Mhm.
concepts require explanation, right? Does the idea that things require explanation, does that need an explanation? Probably not, because it's a concept, not like a thing in itself.
Yeah. No, but I think it would still need an explanation, and I think you would have to arrive
Why?
at a point where you say no, there's just no explanation.
Well, okay, so maybe you think that, but okay,
No, and I
fine.
think you
Maybe
agree
it
with
doesn't
me.
have an explanation. So okay,
No, I
so
think you agree with me.
well, no, I don't. I don't think that the circle is a thing that needs explanation, because I don't, in the same way that I don't think concepts generally need explanation. I think that you can have concepts that are unexplained because they're like conceptual things. They're not like actual things.
Okay. You was about to say something.
No, so I mean, this is just to say, I mean, generally, this idea that you can have three different modes of explanation, this is something called Agrippa's trilemma. It's pretty well regarded. It's basically like you can reject any of them, but you have to accept at least one of them. Okay, so let's say that you accept
Well, I'm
one of
familiar
them.
with it.
Sorry?
I'm familiar with what you just said.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we going now? So things
When I'm
either
saying
have
I
explanations
reject
or they
it-
don't. So
yeah. When I
we're
reject
next.
the circle, when I reject the circle explanation, I'm not rejecting it as in saying like that's nonsensical. It couldn't happen. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying even if you go into the circle explanation, you just you're just saying okay, I arrived at something which doesn't require an explanation. Because you're saying like it's a concept, maybe it just doesn't require an explanation. It's the same
Sure.
thing.
Okay. Maybe. Sure. Okay. So where do we go from here?
I think you just the circle will just be defined as like the ultimate necessity or something like that, like the ultimate concept, the necessary concept or something like that.
Okay. No. I mean, I
I'll
brought up
give you an
Agrippa's
example.
trilemma. Yeah. No. I understand what you're saying. We can back
Yeah,
off
okay.
away from the three options. Now you can continue with
Yeah.
your argument if you want.
Okay, so you arrived at the concept, like the circle, right?
Mhm.
And you're saying it doesn't require an explanation because it's a concept, right?
Yeah, but that's like we can zoom out from the conversation. You can get back to the argument that you were presenting, because you were trying to present an argument for why presumably why you believe in God, right? Or why I should.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm saying like if you arrive at some like first principle which doesn't have an explanation, which I think we just did. If you don't really wanna argue like infinite regression, if you do, we can. I don't know what's your stance on that.
Well, so why don't you just present the premises and then we can talk about them?
Okay. Things have an explanation. Either things have an explanation or they don't. Even if we go back like infinitely, that infinite chain of explanations must have an explanation too. And even if like you do it all again, like getting into another kind of infinite regression, that chain of infinite regression must have an explanation too. And in that way, you just get into a first principle. like a first cause. I call it however you want. And from that point on, from the point that you accept that there is some sort of first cause, first principle, call it first concept, I don't care how you call it, I think we can logically analyze it and get to the idea that it has some, like, let's say, freedom or something like that.
Okay, so let's say that I accept your premises and I say, okay, yeah, so the thing that doesn't require explanation.
Do you though?
Well, I mean, so not really, because I think you're misunderstanding my point, but I can just grant for the sake of argument. Let's say that I just accept all of those premises, and then I say, yeah, okay, the thing that doesn't require explanation, the termination of the chain is the universe.
The universe?
Yeah. Or perhaps
So
we could say all of physical reality or something like that.
I think that no, I would disagree with your answer. I think your answer is invalid because are you just like suggesting the universe as an hypothetical answer or like as a like practical answer? Like do you really think that's the case, or it's just an option?
Well, so I'm not sure I buy into the notion of metaphysical necessity to begin with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just, but so like this idea of like metaphysically necessary versus metaphysically contingent, like it seems I don't think that we can even probe what's metaphysically necessary. Like I don't think it's something that we have access to. But like I'm willing to grant it, but the point still stands. Like even if you were to convince me that metaphysical necessity and metaphysical contingency are like useful things to talk about, I would just say, yeah, the universe, physical reality, whatever, that is metaphysically necessary. And now what?
Okay, but I understand that, but I'm saying, do you think the universe is? Do you define when you say the universe? Do you define it as the sum of all physical reality?
I'm using the universe as shorthand for the entirety of physical reality. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm asking. That's your definition, right? Yeah. There's nothing like spiritual or anything about it.
No.
Well, I just think it would need some sort of. I just think you're calling the universe God. Okay.
Well, but typically when people say
not God, my bad, not God, the first cause.
Well,
and then
sure,
we will just need to analyze that.
That makes me still an atheist, right?
Yeah. No.
So.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll just go into. You just want me to like logically analyze the cause, I think.
I mean, I don't know. What do you want to do? You're here. Presumably, you're here to try to convince me, right?
Yeah, of course. But like, I don't want to. Like, I'm offering arguments. Like to your responses as well.
Yeah. Okay. So is there an issue with me just saying that the universe is the thing that doesn't require explanation?
No, not necessarily. I just think we can analyze that too. Is the universe when you're saying the universe is like it's not a really physical thing, it's just a concept of the sum of all physical reality, right?
Yeah.
Does it have consciousness? Freedom, something like that?
I mean, it has things in it that are conscious. So like it has us in it, for example. But I don't think it has consciousness. No, I don't. That'd be a very weird thing for me to believe.
I think even if I let's say somehow I proved that this universe you're talking about has some sort of consciousness, it will just lead into like pantheism, some sort of that.
Yeah, maybe. But then I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not a pantheist, so it will be a mistake.
But so then why do you think that there must be a first cause that isn't the universe?
Yeah, I don't want it to seem like an excuse, but like it's like I think it's been a year and a half since like I studied English. So
your English I think it's quite good, fun. All things considered.
Yeah, thank you. I just think I would like. I'm not necessarily saying like if you could like talk in my language, I would necessarily like convince you and then like beat you in the debate or something like that. But I just think it would be better. I'll still do my best to explain in English, but yeah. So I think in this, I think you just can't grant that the universe is the first principle.
Why not?
Because you're saying like it's not even a concept. Sure, you're just saying the sum like of all things.
It's an abstract set, right? It's an abstraction.
Yeah, you're saying the abstract set is the cause of the set. It's how
Well,
does
so
how
you were the one who supposed or who enforced on me that like a thing, like perhaps
yeah
an infinite chain or whatever, that the concept of the ring or of the circle requires an explanation.
yeah.
And so then I would just say, well, okay, well that's the thing that doesn't require an explanation, right? Why can't I just do that?
Why can't you just say that the circle itself like
Why can't I say that the
doesn't have-
collection of all of physical reality doesn't require explanation? That anything within physical reality might require explanation, but the entire collection doesn't.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that's because but that will be another presupposition. I think because if something is necessary, it cannot contain anything that is not necessary with it. Like if something doesn't have an explanation, it can't contain anything that does require an explanation within it. Are you familiar with like Thomism?
Thomism is so stupid.
I'm not Thomist. I'm not a Thomist. I'm not
yeah,
Thomist.
yeah, I'm familiar with it, and it's really dumb. So to be clear, necessary
Yes.
and require an explanation, we agreed. Those aren't the same thing.
No, I agree with you.
So the statement that something that's necessary can't contain something that requires an explanation, that seems
No,
false.
I corrected myself. Like.
Okay, so when you say, so can you repeat yourself then?
Yeah, of course. I'm saying when the thing, like if we arrive at the thing that does not require an explanation, that thing, it cannot be something that inside it contains things that do require an explanation.
Well, I'm not so sure, right? Because it could be the case that everything, that the entirety is no, I'm not so sure that the entirety doesn't require explanation, but there are things within it that are dependent on other things within it, but the whole thing must always exist. I don't see what's an issue with that.
I disagree. I know it's like it sounds like the fallacy of composition, but that's not the argument I'm making. That's what it's called in English, the fallacy of composition.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Because sometimes I in debates and stuff, I know the names for the logical fallacies from like my language, which is Hebrew, by the way. But then I say it in English, and people like they don't understand me.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I disagree because hold up. Yeah, I disagree because I think when you arrive at the thing that doesn't require an explanation, then like it must not require an explanation like for anything, like not its existence, not its like properties, anything here, anything. You see?
Why do you think that though?
Because I think it will lead into another like infinite regression. Then we would arrive at another like no explanation cause.
Well, no. Let's just say that the entire thing contains the infinite regress.
Let's just say the entire. Yeah, I'm saying it cannot be.
Why not?
That's the point. I just explained because I think if you assume that it does, then it is not the thing I'm talking about. Okay, it's like I'm gonna give you an example.
Let's take for example a universe that's always existed, or a physical reality that's always existed. Everything in it is caused by something else, but that something else was caused by something else, and there's nothing without explanation inside the entirety of physical reality. I don't see. By the way, I'll like the live on TikTok so we can get these numbers up. Because we get to 100K, I'll put my hair down. Welcome back. So I don't see why the.
No, I think you have a wrong assumption.
Okay, what do you think it is?
Do you think that if something is eternal, then it means that it doesn't require an explanation?
Well, it doesn't require a cause.
A cause, but like an explanation.
So it might require an explanation or it might not. I'm not convinced that everything does require an explanation. So
no, not everything. Of course, not everything.
So, but I mean, so it could be that something that's eternal doesn't require an explanation.
Yes, but not. Yeah, it could be, and I think and I think like at the end of the day you have to arrive at that thing. But I don't think it is the case here because you're saying, what if like can you repeat it? I don't wanna mischaracterize.
Yeah, so like, why can't it just be the case that you have a universe where everything in it is explained by something prior, but the whole thing doesn't have an explanation? Or alternatively,
because
we
I'm
could just
saying
say
by
the whole
definition,
thing
yeah,
is
I understood you.
necessary.
I'm saying by definition, no, not really by definition. Yeah, by definition, the thing, like let's say we have arrived at the thing that I think both of us are like assuming the conclusion. I think it's in English, because I'm saying the thing that we arrive at, like the no explanation thing, it cannot contain anything that needs an explanation within it, and then you're like, no, maybe it could. Why not? And I'm saying it's by definition.
What definition
And
of
I explained
what
why.
definition of Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's that way, because then you just need to go into like infinite regression, because let's go with your example, okay? Why is it the case that those things exist?
Because the things before it exist.
No, but why is it the case that those things exist? No, I'm not asking. No, I'm not asking in the way that you think. I don't know how to say it in English. I'm not asking like, why do you exist? Like, why? What's your name?
You can call me Blitz.
Blitz. Okay. I'm not asking like, why do people exist? I'm asking like, why do you, Blitz, specifically exist in the way that you exist? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, because you know, my parents' genetic codes arranged itself in a particular way, and you know, blah blah blah, environment, all that. Like there's an explanation for it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm saying the chain of things that you just said, like something is caused by something, and the explanation is by the thing prior to it, and that thing explains itself by the thing prior to it. Why is this the case that this chain of causation is the chain that exists?
Because the stuff that caused that chain of causation is the chain that... you're asking why is there causation at all?
No, I'm asking if there is causation, like a causing relation, like B is caused by A is caused by D is caused by Z is caused by H, Why is this the case? Like, why is this...
That might not have an explanation.
Specific causation relationship?
That might not have an explanation.
I don't think it's possible. Not possible, because possible is a strong word. I don't think it's plausible. I think it's like...
Why not?
No, I don't think it's possible.
I mean, I'm not even sure that causation exists, by the way, but that's a separate conversation.
Hume's critique or something else?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's very consistent, by the way, because you do not believe in God, right? Of course, that's why we're debating. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, okay.
Although you and I probably have a lot more in common than you think.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I can read Hebrew, too, so that probably tells you something.
You can read Hebrew?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Can you speak it?
I can read it and say it, but I don't understand it. I understand very little.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I'll keep going.
Sure.
Did you understand my concept? Can you explain it so I'm sure you understood it correctly?
With regards to the like humans critique of causation? Is that what you're referring to?
No, not that. No, I'm sure you understand that. My argument, because
yeah. So it like sounds like your argument is it sounds like your argument is that why is it that A must cause, like, let's say that I'm B and my parents are A. Why is it that the things that happened in A were the things that caused B, roughly? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
but yes. But I'm not asking that on any specific cause in the causal relationship.
Right. You're asking like why? Yeah. So roughly, the way that I conceptualize this, and I've talked about this before with other people, is like there is like a column of causes on the left and a column of effects on the right, and there's lines connecting them. And you're asking, why are the lines connecting those ones instead of other ones? Is that roughly what you're asking?
Yes, but can you explain what is kalam? You said kalam of causes.
Sorry, I mean so columns, like an array, a vertical list.
Okay. Yeah, that's my okay.
It's why is the list of causes connected to the list of effects in the way that it is, and that might not have an explanation. Again, like I said, I'm not sure if causation is a thing that exists at all. Or sorry, if causation is a thing that exists at all. But for what it's worth, I don't think the theistic explanation has. I don't think theism has an explanation for that either.
Okay, because, but that's like a topic for like another.
Well,
Yeah.
well, the only reason I say that is even if I grant that I don't know why causation. Let's say I grant that causation is real or causality is real,
Mhm.
and then I also
Yeah.
grant that. I also say that I don't know why the causes are linked to the effects. And then you say,
Yeah.
aha, but then maybe a god is real. Well, I would say, why would a god choose to link these causes to these effects rather than these causes to these other effects? Like it just seems like there's no explanation regardless.
No, I think there is.
What's the explanation?
Hold up. If I don't, because I don't want to get like away from the essence of the conversation. If let's say I have an answer for that you accept, would you accept the whole argument?
It would at least be more convincing. It at least would make me think that there's at least some explanatory power that the god
Okay.
belief has
Okay,
that
and I
the
think
atheistic belief doesn't.
yeah, I think let's say it's like God, not God, but not like the Christian or
Some
Jewish or any God.
no, I understand some like kind of
Yeah.
deistic thing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think it would like make this specific casual relationship, casual chain, call it however you want. I hope I spell it. I'm saying it right because
Sure.
of its nature.
But that doesn't explain why its nature is that way.
Because the nature, because the nature of the thing is necessary, and I think I
But
know
then
what you want to say.
but then that's just as much a non-explanation as me saying, well, it just had to be that way, right? Like the
Which
causal
thing?
links. So it just seems like there's not actually like a satisfying answer. It's just if
No,
you
there
believe in
is, and I can
God.
explain the differences.
Yeah, okay,
And I
go
can
ahead.
explain the differences.
Go ahead.
In my explanation, as I've said it before, I think the thing that caused like the whole chain must not be like it must not contain the other things, because it must be like alone in the way that it has no explanation. It can't be like it can't contain anything that needs an explanation within it, right? And then we talked about this, and you said why is that the case, right?
Yeah.
And I've stated that it would cause just another like some sort of regression, and then you just have to ask the same question, okay, and I think when you bring God into this conversation, you resolve the whole problem, because we are not talking about the set of sets anymore. We are talking about a distinct entity.
Well, but so in the question of like kind of
And
the
God does not contain the other things. So we do not have the same problem.
maybe that's the case, but in the question of why the causal relations are the way they are,
Yeah.
the saying that is something that doesn't have
Can you
an
repeat it?
explanation. Yeah. So the question is, why are the causal relationships the way that they are? Why is it that if I light my hand on fire, my hand hurts? Why it could have been another way. So why is it that way? Right, roughly. So but the list or the set of causal relationships, that doesn't contain the things itself. This is like an abstraction. It's a thing separate from the rest of the universe. This is just like a set of relationships between things. It's not the things themselves. So I don't see why we run into that issue by just saying these causal relationships are unexplained.
No, I think it does, because I think what you just like the argument you just offered is it's more of a semantic argument, in the way that it doesn't really have any explanatory power or any difference from what we just discussed before. It's just a different name. You're just right now, if I understood you correctly, and you can correct me, you said that the thing it will not be a problem, because the thing, like the set of the things, doesn't really contain them, because it's a concept, right?
No. So
Okay.
So look, we have a whole bunch of things in the universe, right? We have we have houses and people and cars and all these things. But the relationships between those things, if indeed there are such relationships, those are not the things themselves, right?
Yeah.
Those are like conceptual things. They're like, if I say like I like if you believe
Those are
in
not physical things.
they're not physical. They are not the things. So a car is a thing. The relationship between a car and a person is not a thing. So in particular, the relationship between a car and a person is not the car. It doesn't contain the car, and it doesn't contain the person, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like we don't run into the same issue of a necessary thing causing, some contingent thing or whatever.
I think we do because maybe you just there are two options. Either I misunderstood your answer, or two, you changed the definition that you gave me of the universe. Didn't you say like the universe in this specific conversation is the
so we're talking
sum
about,
of
So no, I understand the confusion. So we were talking, so I might think that the physical, that the stuff, the set of all of the stuff, that definitely contains the stuff, but that set doesn't require an explanation, perhaps. And then we were separately having a conversation of why does the stuff inside have certain relationships with other stuff that also might not require an explanation. These are just two separate things.
No, those are linked.
I don't think so. I mean, you could just have two things that don't require explanation.
No, I'm saying the two conversations are linked.
Well, yes, they're certainly linked. I'm just saying that you could have two things, neither of which require an explanation. One is the actual set of physical stuff, and then to explain why, or rather the question of why the physical stuff has the relationships it has inside the set, that might also not require explanation.
Why the physical? Can you repeat it? Why the physical stuff?
So there's two things. There's the entire set of stuff. That might not require an explanation because it is all the stuff.
I get it.
And then there's the relationships between the physical stuff, which is like a conceptual or like an abstract thing. And that relationship might also not require explanation. That's the claim here.
I disagree with the distinction. That's the point.
Well, wait, so you think that the set of all physical things is the same as the relationships between those things?
No. I'm saying that I disagree with the distinctions, not to say that both things are the same. I disagree because I disagree with your premises, and I will explain. You said the sum, or can I call it the sum of all physical things, as you said?
Sure, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, hold up, I'm bringing up a charger, so my phone don't die.
Sure.
Wait. From potentially. Hold up. Do you usually have so much views on your lives?
Yeah, I usually have. I mean, we just started like 45 minutes ago, so like we're still warming up. But yeah, usually I get a few hundred.
Okay.
Sometimes up to 1,000 when I'm lucky.
1,000? That's crazy. Okay, I've got my charger here. Okay, that's cool. Okay. You said the sum of all things might not have an explanation itself, and also the conceptual relationship between the causes might not have a cause too, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like two things can have the property of not having an explanation, right?
Yeah, I don't see why that's
yeah, I disagree.
Seems fine.
I disagree. Yeah, I will explain.
Sure.
It's a bit messy. Hold up, I'm thinking about how to word it in English. This is a really good conversation, by the way. I've tried it with few. I have like another atheist friends, and we always talk about this stuff. But somehow I don't know if it's because you can also give me your opinion on it. Like whenever I talk to them about this stuff and it gets to this point, I usually just lose them. You know, it gets to a point where I have to. Do you know why? Because I don't think they are dishonest. They're not dishonest in my opinion.
I think what it comes down to is that like a lot of people who hold the position I have think that metaphysics is generally like very suspect to begin with, and I generally hold that position. Like I'm very suspect when people start making metaphysical claims, but I'm willing to entertain it, and I'm willing to have the discussion about it because I could be wrong. Metaphysics could be useful. So, but yeah, it's just there's a general suspicion about metaphysical claims because it's just not clear if we even have access to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, okay, that didn't really want to say. I'm saying more like when we arrive at some point of the conversation, it feels like we can't go past that. It's like one of us can't like grasp what the other one is saying.
That I can't. That I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay. I just want your opinion. Okay, so I'll go on.
Sure.
I think that's. I wouldn't say impossible, but I think that, what you just described is not the case, because I think the first there is a connection. There is. I wouldn't say it's a reason, but I can explain. Don't like hold me into like very little words, because I might like miss.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I think there is like an explanation, or like I can explain why like the no explanation thing. I don't know why I call it that way, but I suppose you understand. It doesn't have an explanation. In any aspect. And one of the things that make it that way, I wouldn't say make it that way like in a casual or an explanatory way. It's just that I can explain the mechanics of it. Okay, so like and one of those reasons is that when you get like to that point, you don't have any other point, like any distinct point that doesn't have like an explanation. Like anything that doesn't have an explanation from that point on has to do with that thing. Okay, so let's say you can't explain let's say you can't explain really the conceptual relationship between the causes. Okay, that's the case because let's say God or the first cause. I think I'm losing myself. Like I know how to say it, but in English it's very tough for me.
That's understandable.
Yeah. It's like a property of God.
So
can I call it God? I mean the first cause. Yeah.
Let me do you one better. Why can't I say that? So in fact, the way that and this is just like the way that we typically think about it. The way that we typically think about the reason for the causal connection between any two things, any two events or whatever, is we think about it in terms of, say, something called, we call them like laws of physics or whatever, right? So why couldn't we just say the laws of physics are encoded or are a property of the physical reality as a whole, and that is just a property of that physical reality? It's part of its nature. Why can't we just say that?
That the physical things are part of the nature?
No, the physical laws are. And the physical laws provide the explanation for the causal relationships.
In this like example you're giving me, do the physical laws have an explanation?
No, they're part of the universe's nature.
So yeah, do they have so they do not have an explanation?
No, they are explained by the universe's nature. In the same way that you might say that God picks the properties of God are explained by God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's by analogy, the same by analogy.
Yeah. Okay. I think, honestly, I think you could. No, I'll say something more than that. I think you could say that, and I think I know someone who is a Catholic, like a Thomist, who holds that position.
Yeah, but they think that the first cause has a mind, and that's the distinction, right?
No, but they also think like the physical things are necessary, like in their existence. Like there's some sort of.
Thomists are weird sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not making. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I'm an Orthodox, and we don't really like Thomists in our tradition. I don't know if you're aware of that. We just think like most of the metaphysics and like philosophy, I don't want to trash talk, but like it's incomprehensible. That's how you say it. It's like you can't.
No. Thomism is incomprehensible. I agree.
Yeah.
Thomism, they just make up words and just say words, and they don't mean anything to anybody who's not a Thomist. I completely agree.
And when you ask for like when you question like a definition of something. They just give you another thing which you can't understand.
I'm so glad you agree with me on this. It's
Yeah.
absurd, right? Because you'll be like, they'll say like, but you can't have potential actuality without actual potentiality. And you're like, what's potentiality? And they're like, potentiality is that which is not actual. I'm like, what?
Bro, that's so true, bro.
It's the worst.
That's crazy. It's like
I hate it so
an
much.
infinite regression of not understanding anything.
Right? All right.
Yeah.
I think that we did reach a good stopping point. I should move on to another guest, but I do appreciate you being here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Sorry, my computer's crashing. I tried fine-tuning the background to the right. Is the background in the right place or no? Is it like, I think you'll just actually have to deal with it. All right, should we bring up Gilbert? I don't know who Gilbert is, but should we bring up Gilbert? When a guest comes, it ships. Okay, that's unfortunate. Oh, actually, oh, no, never mind. All right, Gilbert is in the guest box. Let's bring up Gilbert. Yes, it does shift when you add a guest. That's true.
All right, I am here.
Gilbert, why are people demanding that you come up?
I have no idea.
So what's going on? What do you believe in?
So, yeah, I guess for me, I believe in God. Now, if somebody were to convince you to believe in God, would you believe in God? Or let me rephrase that. If God were to exist, would you then believe in God? Or would you still?
Well, if God existed and somebody provided me with a good reason to believe in him, or it, yeah, of course I would.
Okay, so
now if you're asking whether I would worship that God, different story. It depends on which God this is. But yeah, belief, sure.
Sure, you'd believe it. Okay, if this God that existed, if he was a morally good God and he provided you with a moral reality, moral objective reality, would you believe in that moral objective reality?
If this God was real and I had good reason to believe in it, sure.
Is there a moral objective reality?
I don't think so.
What makes you not think so?
The way that I conceptualize morals is basically a set of statements about an individual's stance. So, for example, when I say that something is good or evil, when I say that somebody else does something good or evil, that is a relationship between their actions, their beliefs, what they say, whatever, and my stances.
Do you believe so you believe it's relative to that person?
It's relative to me, importantly.
Well, it would be relative. So it'd be relative to anybody. I mean,
it's just relative to me. I don't care about anybody else's stances. The only thing that matters in my morality is my stances.
Right, but when other people's reality affects yours, then you care about other people's reality.
I care about other people. I just don't care about what their stances are regarding morality.
Well, would you say that if somebody wanted to kill you, because their moral reality?
Friendly words, by the way, please.
Yeah, thank you. So if somebody's moral reality said that you should not exist, and they were going to be the person to take you out of existence, would you then care about their moral?
No, I don't care what their stances are. I care that goes against my stances. I don't care if they think it's good. That doesn't matter to me.
So, okay, would you think that it's good or not for somebody to take you out of?
I would think it's bad because it goes against my stances.
And where have you developed these stances from? Like, where have you gained these?
I mean, they probably came from in part genetics, in part environment, in part society. Some mixture of those.
Some mixture of genetics, society, some mixture, and environment. Okay. So, yeah, so is there a universal morality out there? Like, is there
for humans or for like the entire universe?
For humans.
I think that it's possible that there's some degree of universality to some of the morals that we have. And that's because there are some things that are like physiologically repulsive. So like there is a natural instinct to be disgusted by like carcasses, right? Like that's a thing that like is like biologically it's in us. And so that
True.
can inform on morality. And so in some sense you can have a very, very rudimentary morality that's kind of based on these physiological responses. But I think that anything more sophisticated than that will definitely come down to, you know, a person's development.
Okay. Sorry. So are there actual agreements on, you know, murder and theft and amongst a majority of people? Like, is there some
Well, yeah. I mean, in
unspoken
most,
law?
at least in the societies that you and I live in, there is an agreement that unjustified killings are bad.
Right. In
For
what
example.
society are in what society is there unjustified killings that are good?
I mean, like, that's kind of so. Perhaps I shouldn't have said that. I should have said, and the only reason I say that is because unjustified kind of implies bad already. There's
Yep.
like moral language loaded in there. So perhaps we could have said, killing for no reason is bad in our society. And you know, I can imagine a society where, like, I don't know if there are any real societies that are like this, but I can imagine societies that have, like, you know, they just have a sport where you just go around and you unalive people, and that's just, there's no reason for it, you just do it, and that's fine for that. Like, I can imagine that. I would think that that's bad.
Yeah, we can imagine it, but imagining it and actually living in what we are
Yeah, so
in,
it might be the case that there are no societies where that's the case. And it might be because unjustified unaliving is something that's kind of physiologically in us in some sense, because we don't like those kinds of things. We are repulsed by murder. We are repulsed by death. And so it might be the case that all societies end up that way.
Yep. Or it could be that there's a moral lawgiver, and this moral lawgiver understands truth and goodness in opposite of that, and we all experience that.
It could be. I'm not convinced that that thing exists. So.
Okay. Do you believe in
so
truth?
Why should I? Do I believe in truth? In what sense?
In the sense that there are things that we can objectively say are true, like you and I both live in a reality, and we're not in a.
I think that I think that there are facts about the world, if that's what you mean. Yeah.
Okay. How do you prove facts?
Well, I mean, every belief, whether you think you're proving it or not, every belief starts with some set of assumptions that you just grant. For example, I grant that the universe exists and behaves in a consistent way, right? So I kind of just like, that's just like a fundamental belief that I have, that the universe, like the external world, is real, and that it has a certain characteristic, that it's like, you know, the sun rose yesterday, it's going to rise tomorrow, that kind of thing. And from there, we can just use inference. We can infer things about the way that the universe will likely be tomorrow. We can make observations about the way the universe is today.
Exactly. So these inferences begin to, you know, compound and substantiate a given fact of reality, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Yeah. So the same thing with God and a lawgiver and objective morality. When you start to think about where did something come from, was there a creator? Was there an artist? You know, any piece of design, and the design in this case being morality. There was a design for morality that we all agree with. Then there should be some design giver, some lawgiver, right?
But we don't all agree with it, right? We just don't. Like, there are places in the world where they think that slavery is fine, and we don't. We just don't all agree.
Hold on. Just because someone doesn't agree with it, I guess I misstated there. So, because there's places that don't agree with it, does not mean that it is not the truth still.
But how do you establish if it's the? What does it mean for there to be a moral truth?
So yes, so for there to be a moral truth, there would have to be some objective, or there would have to be some type of a realization that that is true, and you would have to come to that through your own substantiated experiences. Like, okay, that must be true because when I do this, this occurs. So, if, like, let's follow out the case of slavery. We've seen it. We'd all agree that slavery does not end well for
well,
the
you
people.
and I would agree with that, but there are people who wouldn't agree with that, right?
Right, you're right. But okay, so then who is right?
Well, so that's why I use my stances, and I don't care about anybody other stances, right?
Right. Well, the thing
So
is,
there's a truth about my stances. So it is true that my stances do not align with a belief that slavery is good. So that, in some sense, that's a moral truth, but it's a moral truth about a relationship between my stances. It's more of a relational truth rather than some like objective moral truth, if you will. It's just a statement about what my stances are and how they relate to other things.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. When other people's truths begin to affect yours, do you still just not care about those?
I'll tell them that they're wrong because it's not my stance.
Well,
but like, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, your truth is just as valid. No, like, of course not. My truth is the only thing that matters to me. If your truth disagrees with mine, I don't care. You're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So, yeah, I think.
But like, I mean,
so why do you even care about your truth then? If there's
I don't think I have a choice.
You don't have a choice?
Yeah, I don't think I have a choice.
Why don't you have a choice?
I'm a determinist, so I don't think I have a choice in anything. But more than that, I think that like humans are social creatures, and as part of that being as part of being a social creature, we have hardwired in us to have a belief, whatever those beliefs might be. We are kind of forced to believe in what's fair and what's unfair, what's good and what's bad, whatever those characteristics are. That whatever is good and what's bad. I think that's something that's kind of hardwired in humans because that's part of being a social species.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How did that become hardwired in humans then?
Because we're a social species. It's evolutionarily beneficial.
Yeah. Well, then it gets why is it evolutionarily beneficial for that to occur? Like it starts to reverse back to some.
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
So if you have a social species, which we're just granting for the sake of argument, humans are a social species, and then you have organisms. If you have humans that don't have any sense, any way of delineating between good and bad or just and unjust, then you won't have groups that are able to come together in common cause. And the groups that are able to come together in common cause are the groups that are more likely to survive.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Okay. So then, yeah, for me, it comes down to then, yeah, if there is some type of hardwired, genetic type of survivability, then there must be some reason for that to be there. But I mean, if it's just survivability, then really, yeah, nothing matters except survival, and any means to survival will then take root, right? So if you can enslave people to survive, you can murder people to survive, to make it,
You can, but you'll be less likely to survive if you do that in the West, right?
Well,
because you'll be sent to jail.
Well,
right.
It all depends on the lawgiver, right? It depends if
yes,
people in
and
power
Congress and the Constitution give the law if you live in the United States.
Exactly. So it all depends. It's all dependent on the lawgiver, and so. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've already spent my time. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Gilbert. Have a good one.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. And for everybody who's watching, whether you're on YouTube or on TikTok, make sure to like the live. It makes more people come over here, makes more people have interesting conversations. And if you like what you're seeing here, if you like the people and if you want to talk to the TikTok people and you're in YouTube or vice versa, join the Discord because they're all going to be there. There's a Discord in the link in the description, and if you're on TikTok, there's a link to the Discord in the link tree in my bio. Great place, lovely people. You should go there. Make sure to copy the link into a browser. It won't work if you click on it. Sure and stuff. You said that you wanted to come up and you'd end this in 3 minutes. What you got for me?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, 2 questions, and I'll be able to give you your answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, do you mean the chicken egg? Because eggs came before chickens existed, definitely.
So the egg.
Well, yeah, because there were dinosaur eggs before chickens.
So, yeah. Egg because it's through evolution. But where did the egg, where did that come from?
Where did are you asking where life came from? Because, I'm not a biochemist, but my understanding is life arose naturally through complex chemical processes.
But you're going through it, so like everything goes through it. The whole concept of chicken or the egg, it's the matter of when it came from somewhere. Everything is
came via evolution. I agree. Evolution is a thing that caused eggs to form in the first place.
But life is evolution from just random matter.
No, that's not evolution.
That random matter.
You're talking about abiogenesis. Evolution specifically refers to what happens when life changes over time.
But first, the spark of life has to go through and come from something.
Yeah, so that would be a process of abiogenesis. It's not evolution. That would be a process of abiogenesis.
Splitting a hair, but yes. So the matter that went through and started the abiogenesis, which started the first chain of life, which started evolution, that matter came from somewhere.
Yep, it came from some other star, some other place in the galaxy, sure.
But if it just came from somewhere else in the galaxy, then the galaxy was already there.
Yeah,
there's a
galaxy
point in which everything started.
The galaxy formed 9 billion years ago. If you're asking where did everything come from, if that was your
the chicken or the egg, was it all
the chicken
just
or the egg
already
is not
in existence?
what you asked. So the chicken or the egg has nothing to do with where the universe came from, right? Like if you wanted to just ask where did the universe
it's still the
come
same
from,
concept.
If you wanted to ask where the universe came from, you could have just asked where did everything come from, right? Rather than asking.
Well, I was also going through and basing this on the understanding that we'd be using the interpretation that if God exists, then God created it.
Yeah, so I lean towards the universe having always existed. So there was no beginning of the universe, if you will, under my view.
Well, I mean, if something that's eternal would never go through and be able to, our minds are not even able to go through and formulate and understand such concept.
You're right. Some things are very hard for humans to understand, but that doesn't mean it's not like how it actually is, right?
Indeed. But if it was always there, and it started with all the things in life, all the things necessary for life.
It didn't start. There was no beginning. If it was always there, there was no beginning.
See, we're getting back to the whole circle, wiping our ass with the hula hoop. No beginning, no end. You're going through and looking at things on a basis that if it goes through and exists beyond the fourth dimension, then the fourth dimension is no longer even a part of it.
I have no idea what you're
ninth dimensional. Okay, so supposedly the fourth dimension is time. And
time is one of 4 space-time dimensions, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, according to differing philosophies, the different dimensions are different things. But one of the dimensions in dimensions beyond what we are able to perceive, there's the dimension of time. And by you going through and saying that there is no beginning of the universe, it just always existed. That means that if you go through and you are a being or a thing that exists in more dimensions than just a dimension of time, then you are no longer affected by time. Time is not a part of you.
So I exist in 4 dimensions, 3 in space, 1 in time. I don't know what you mean by more dimensions.
And
I don't
that
have
means
any
our
reason
universe. That means our universe also exists in the dimension of time.
Our universe is
time
4-dimensional. Our universe is 4-dimensional.
Time started at the same time that the universe started.
I don't think the universe started.
All right, when did time start?
I don't think time started.
Time is able to be measured with time. So at the point
That's
in which
tautology.
time was able to start at the
I don't
moment
think that
in which
time started. I don't think time started. I don't think there was a first moment.
The moment in which the dimension of time in which you can observe, understand, the moment in which the dimension of time was observable by an entity that was able to observe
I
it,
think that's always been the case.
even if there wasn't an entity.
I think that's always been the case.
Yeah, because everything didn't start until time started.
I think that time's always been there. I don't think that there was a start to time.
Time's always been there, but where is there?
I was using it metaphorically. I think that time has always existed. I don't think that there was a first moment.
That'd go through and be an interesting concept on how time works in itself. But so anyways, the whole point behind the chicken and the egg thing in the first place, if there was a God created the universe, if there's chicken and egg, if it was chicken, then all likelihood there is no way to convince you that there's a God regardless, because everything starts as it's able to go through and procreate, progress, and continue on. If it starts at the egg, then there was a beginning, which means a beginning had to go through and have something to create the beginning. It was just a mind to go through and see where you go through and how you view things. But time didn't even go through and freaking start. So that's an interesting way of going through and looking at things.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
Time.
You want to call it there?
I do believe so, because really the true answer to your question is no one can convince you to believe in God.
Well, maybe that's because it's not real.
No, it's because you don't want to go through and believe in a God, because it doesn't go through and fit in with what you've already gone through and convinced yourself of what you've already gone through and accepted as truth does not allow for that to go through and be in there.
I'm capable of changing my mind, right? Like, I change my mind on things all the time.
Fair enough. But, I mean, it's still to the same point that we can go through and freaking say all kinds of stuff, anybody can. But nobody can convince you to believe in God.
Well,
just
then,
like a teacher
if
doesn't actually go through...
If nobody can, then
just
either
like
I'm the most intelligent atheist on the planet, or maybe God doesn't exist.
No, it's the answer is no one can, but it's due to the same issue as a teacher doesn't actually teach. A teacher simply inspires the child to learn. Because if a child doesn't want to learn something, you can go through and yell it in their ear, you can put the books in front of them, but if they don't want to learn it, they're not going to learn it.
Okay, well then
The only way
you
to
should
go
inspire
through
me to
and,
teach.
yeah,
Or you should inspire me to learn then, right? Isn't that what you're here for?
I mean, it is.
A good teacher
But,
wouldn't fail a student.
Oh, shit, I never said I was a good teacher.
Oh, well then why'd you come up? You said that you were going to have me convinced in 3 minutes.
No, I said I could answer your question in less than 3 minutes. And have you convinced of the answer, but apparently, you were looking at it from a whole different angle than I even went through and freaking expected you to go through and be looking at it from. So,
well, such is life.
That was it is indeed.
All right.
And all that stuff. Well,
indeed.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let you go.
You have yourself a good one.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, we still have no guests in the YouTube queue, so let's bring up another guest in the TikTok queue. All right, let's bring up... Oh, we have a lot of guests in the TikTok queue. Lovely. Let's bring up Propositional Rolodex. What a name. For everybody who's watching, by the way, make sure to like the live, whether you're on TikTok or on YouTube. In either case, it's really, really good for getting more people in here and having better conversations. Why the fire? Because I'm lit, yo. I don't know, it's just fun. Why not? Maybe it's symbolic that I'm going to hell or something. Who knows? Alright, this person's not connecting. Also, if you want to support me in any way, which obviously not an obligation, if you want to support me, there is a Cash App. There's Buy Me a Coffee if the Cash App doesn't work. These are all things that you can do if you want to like convince me that I should do this more. Which, you know, I'm probably already doing anyway, but some people have a lot of money floating around and they want to give it to people that they don't know. So if you're going to do that, do it to me. Nope. Alright. That person went away. Let's talk to Sean. No, I'm not taking any kidneys, by the way. Sean, how's it going?
Hi.
What's up? Which god are you going to try to convince me of?
Oh no, don't want to try to convince you of a specific god or something. I'm a little bit shocked that I was like selected now to talk to you. So need to
You were in
calm
the
down
list.
first.
But if you don't want to convince me, then why are you here?
No, I want to convince you to do something, to maybe find a belief in God, or maybe find the knowledge of that there is really a God that really exists. And I'm in a similar position to you, because I also studied physics like a long time ago, but I never worked as a physician, and I always was thinking like, how can I? There was always this question about God, and I was all the time trying to convince anybody that there is no God. And I was in a similar trip as you are now at the moment. Now I became much older, and I started to think about it differently. And there are some things that I found out that could people lead into the direction to find maybe a way to try to find out if there is a God or there is no God. So the first thing I want to talk about it is that God is purely a mental thing. It's like kind of the color red, or the feeling of love, or whatever. So something like purely mental. So there is no physical explanation, and well, also no physical explanation to explain a God. So this is the first take on it. So and then there are like special techniques where you can feel this feeling, or this or did I say this mental thing, and this is kind of a relationship maybe that you talked about, the things that, because you said in the former talk that there are also non-physical things, and I'm talking about them. So this non-physical things, one of those non-physical things seems to be like kind of a god or something, because you can experience it, and you can experience it through meditation. This is something that I try also
Well,
to
to
do
be
in my
clear,
life, but
I
I
haven't,
never.
so why should I believe in it? Right? I've done the
Yeah,
meditation
because
thing.
I've
been
if
into
you
holy
do
places.
it like, yes. And what is your take on it? So, and there's also the other way that you can take some mushrooms and other hallucinogenic substances, they can you lead also into realms. And there's also this near-death experience that people have that has no biological advantage really, and that is like weird to explain.
I don't think that psychedelics
So
point to. I don't think that you need a biological, like an evolutionary advantage. Sorry, I don't think you need an evolutionary explanation for why psychedelics make you see things. Psychedelics make your brain behave in ways that they're not. They're not meant to behave, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is what they do. And but when you have that, you have an experience, and this experience is something that is not physical. And some people describe this experience as godlike, you know.
Well,
and I haven't had this experience.
Maybe if and when I try psychedelics, I will be converted. But until then, you're going to have a hard time converting me without forcing mushrooms into my mouth, right?
Exactly. So it's the same for me, you know. I haven't had these experiences, but I believe now that they are like possible. So, and it could be that anybody that has this experience, I'm talking also of you in this case, that turns then into a believer or into somebody that knows that God exists. So, and this is the only thing that I want to.
Sean, I'm asking you to try to convince me, not to tell me that I should be.
Yeah, this is why I'm trying to convince you to use these experiences.
I am open to being convinced. I've already made that clear that I'm open to being convinced. So
but I agree with you.
Trying to convince me
there is no way to go convince
already
you.
Done.
This is what I'm saying, what I'm trying to point out. There is no way to convince you until you really experience the thing. And this is what I think. I haven't experienced
there's not much to talk
either.
about, is there?
Yes, basically yes, but it's nice to point it out. So there is like the only reason to make you convince is to make you convince to try this out because it's a nice thing. And the funny thing is that there is also this relationship between conscious in physics and maybe
I'm not convinced there is.
Yeah, I know, but I'm also not convinced that there is something like a conscious, like a lot of believers think the conscious is built, but there are like things in physics that point into this direction. For example,
not convinced of that.
Yeah, but you need to explain like a lot of things like quantum mechanics, you know.
Yeah, I subscribe to the Everett interpretation, which doesn't require consciousness.
Which, sorry, I didn't understand you.
Hugh Everett's interpretation?
Oh, I don't recall it exactly what kind of difference it has, like this interpretation.
Yeah, it doesn't have wave function collapse. It treats the wave function as objectively real, as like a real thing. And then you just have decoherence that leads to branching of into orthogonal eigenstates.
Okay, but this doesn't include a multiverse then?
No, it's not a multiverse. It's just one universe.
Okay. Thank you. No, I'm not as deep into this thing. So, but this is the only thing I wanted to say. So, if you want to, for me, it's believing in God is something like having seen the color red. So, if you've never seen the color red, then you cannot talk about it. And the people that have seen the color red, they can talk about it. And this is why I think it should be approached. So, I will try to in my life to one day do it.
How about this?
And I want
I'll make you a deal, Sean. I will stop having the conversation about it if all of the religious people also stop trying to convince the non-religious people. How about that?
Oh, I'm not making you stop. Please keep doing what you do. I think it makes the people think about a lot of different things. So I wanted only to put this into the basket. That's all of all the ideas that there are. I have the idea that God is something purely mental, and it might even have a physical connection somehow that I'm not aware of, obviously. But if this is the case, then it should be something that we go into, you know, like that we make the experience of. It's kind of sad having never seen the color red.
Sean, I understand what you're saying. I'm going to let you go because we're not really having a conversation, but thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Remember, y'all, to like the live. If we get to 100K on TikTok, I'll put my hair down. All right, let's bring up another guest. Let's bring up... nobody has like a big cross or like a Jesus in their account name.
Hello?
Benches. How's it going?
Hi. Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Which god are you going to try to convince me of?
I'm an atheist, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. How's that?
How's that? No, you won't. How's that? I don't care to engage with devil's advocate. It's just very uninteresting to me.
Interesting.
Trending, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Which god are you going to try to convince me of?
So, there's only one God who created the universe, heaven and earth, and humans, you know? So that's the only God I wanna
Okay, is
convince
it
you.
Vishnu?
No, I don't know.
Is
So
it
with it-
Zoroaster?
I never heard that name either.
Okay, so which one is it?
So, the name of that person it can be important, but you know something? He also
Well,
said in
I
the
just don't
Bible
know
that
what you believe. Are you a Hindu? Are you a Norse pagan?
no, I just believe in the creator because there's one and everyone should know that person once they go and look, because like if you don't know and you go and look and you speak to, probably if you look, because we have eyes, right? And we can see visions, but we can also see, well, we can see what we need to see, and we can hear because we have ears to hear as well. But what I'm saying is you might not be sure, and like I wasn't sure at first, so I never knew who it was or what, right? But since I asked, I got the answer. So I'm just gonna tell you there is a creator who created heaven and earth. And the name isn't too important because in the Bible he said, if you're not sure of the name, you can just call me Most High. So you can just say Most High and you will be speaking to the person. But the person does exist. So you can go and see, if you try to speak to Most High, you can say, oh Most High, if you are there, reveal yourself to me.
Why should
and see if
I think that that's real? Why should I think that thing exists?
No, you don't have to think. But what I'm saying is, if you want to know, you can try and see
Well,
if that
I'd like
person
to know if it's
communicates with
true.
you.
I'd like to know if it's true.
Yeah. So
If it's not true, I'd like to know
so
that.
what?
And if it's true, I'd like to know that. So why should I
Yes.
think it's true?
Think? No, not
Yeah,
about thinking, but
why
you'll
should I
know.
why should I believe that it's true?
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it's important to, first of all, we're on Earth, and Earth was made in the universe, right? There was no Earth before, and
Yep,
we're
I
here.
agree.
Are we enjoying it? We're
Well,
enjoying this, right?
some
So I'm
people are
saying,
enjoying it. Some people aren't.
I understand, but at the end of the day, you sure would appreciate knowing who created it, right?
I don't think
If
anybody
someone
created it. I don't think anybody did.
I know that's what you think, but like, to know the truth, we can't really go upon what we think, because we can
Okay,
think
so then you
something
should.
or want
So
it.
how should we figure out the truth then?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, you can get the truth by speaking to the Most High.
Okay, what if I've tried that and nothing happened?
I don't know, maybe because I'm not saying it happened, but what I'm saying maybe happened is you didn't keep the faith in getting the answers. Maybe you already had your own things that you wanted to say. Like, you wanted to say, okay, this is not working, no one is answering me, so you went. Maybe you needed to hold on a little longer.
But I thought you said that I would know, or I would come to believe that just by speaking. So now there's extra stipulations, there's extra requirements.
Okay, so like I was saying, the way that I found out is because I said, oh, powers that be almost high. You know, so if I don't know if you were speaking to the right person, but I want you to try that way. I want you to speak. Yes, I said Most High, or powers, the powers that be, like the powers that created the clouds, the earth, the me, the you. So I said, oh, powers. I didn't even call a name. So just if you're trying to reach out to the person who created the powers, they're gonna hear you. Once they did it, right? If that person exists, they're gonna hear you, and then
if they exist,
see what happens
but
next.
Apparently it didn't work. So
it didn't work. But what name did you call, or did you say? What did you say?
What if I didn't call a name whatsoever? I just called out.
You don't have to call a name. Yeah.
So then why didn't it work? It work?
I don't know, but I think you're getting there. So I just want you to keep the faith, okay?
I'm not.
Because if you weren't getting there, I wouldn't be here now if you were not getting there. So just you have to keep the faith if you want to know the answer.
Why do I have to have faith in order to learn what's true? Learning what's true requires knowledge, knowing what's true, is justified true belief. In order to justify a belief requires an explanation, requires evidence, typically.
Yes.
So
Yes.
why do I
Yes.
need to have faith, which is a belief without evidence, when I could have knowledge,
Yes.
which is a belief with evidence?
Okay, but is the evidence you're getting coming from the right source? Because
Apparently,
I don't.
apparently not. Nobody's giving me any.
Yeah, correct. So this is what I'm
So
saying.
where's
I
the
do
evidence you got
believe
for
that.
me? Where's the evidence?
Yeah, I want you to get the evidence too, because everyone is gonna get the same evidence once they speak to this person, right? If the person exists. So if you
All right, do
if
you
you
want me
try
to
to
call
speak to
out
that
right
person,
now? We can do it on the live if you want.
yes.
All right, tell me what to
Carlo
say and I'll
too.
say
Say
it.
the person who
Tell me what to say and I'll say it, and we'll see. We'll see if it works.
Yes, speak to say the person who created the earth or who created the heaven or who created the stars. You are trying to reach them and you need to speak to them, something like that. And,
Person
don't
who created the stars, I'm trying to reach you and I need to speak to you.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
Oh no, something's coming over me. No, I'm kidding. Of course that didn't happen, right? Like
No, Blitz. So Blitz, you just stick with that, and we'll catch up the next time when you're on the live, okay?
All right, take care, bud.
You have a good day.
I definitely stole that from Ian, by the way. Absolutely. I'm not so cringe that I can do it for as long as Ian does, but definitely worth doing. All right, let's talk to Infernal Griff. Well, I get to talk to Ian every week, so I'm in the Gucci, if you will. Infernal,
how you doing?
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing well. My kid's having a nap, which is great for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right, so which god are you going to try to convince me of is real?
I'm not going to limit myself yet.
Well,
now,
okay.
to answer the actual question you're asking, I was raised in the Christian framework. I tend to believe in the Christian framework, but that's not really the point of what you're asking or why I'm here. So,
okay. So why are you here?
Okay, so I've been listening to you talk to a couple of other people. Some of them, oh my goodness, man.
Hey, we're not here to judge. We listen, we don't judge, okay?
No, I judge the education that they went through to get to their theological basis. And you know what? We're all on our journey, so whatever. My first question to you is, do you have an absolute belief on whether or not this universe is a simulation?
I have high credence that it's not.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to claim certainty, but,
Fair. No scientists claim certainty, and a lot of scientists out there are actually really not sure about whether or not this is a simulation. My argument would be that if it is a simulation, that means there's a creator of some kind, and then everything else is just a matter of nature and of semantics, and doesn't necessarily stop atheists from saying that Christianity is BS, but that is the basis of us. I feel that we should be agnostic, not atheist.
Are you agnostic?
I've always been searching for a better truth, for a better relationship with my God.
Well, that wasn't my question.
Well, you're asking a question that would take me an hour to go through. I'm not going to give you my entire faith history.
Either you're an agnostic or you're not, right?
I would say I'm a Christian. The God that I pray to is
so then,
I follow the name of Jesus. I should be an agnostic.
Why shouldn't you be?
Because I am going through my own relationship and my own search with God. I have dropped so many backward beliefs that are taught in the Christian system. I evolve in my faith.
That's cool.
And I feel,
but you're not
and
agnostic,
just because I
right?
don't change what name I refer to the Almighty, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not changing who I am and how I believe.
My point is you do believe in a God. You believe that such a thing exists. Yes. So you're not an agnostic.
Fair enough. But the nature of that God is up for grabs.
Perhaps. Still agnostic, though. By the way, even if the universe was in a simulation, I wouldn't call that a god. I wouldn't call the simulator a god, if only because I define a god as the creator of all physical reality. But the creator, if the creator of our universe, if it's a simulator, just like a dude in his garage simulating a universe on his computer, would just be a dude who lives in his own physical reality, which he didn't create. So the term wouldn't apply.
Well, if you're saying that it's turtles all the way down, then I actually think that's
No, I'm not saying
ultimately
that.
a moot
But
point.
what I am saying is that even if there was a simulator for our universe, that wouldn't make the person who simulated it a god. It might grant them godlike powers. It might be, but you know, they're still born, they still die. You know, they still have to obey the laws of physics. Not very godly to me.
Well, if something is born before our universe exists and dies after the universe ceases to exist, then isn't that our eternity?
Well, sure, but it's not. It's not like, I mean, well, no. Sorry, no. That would be a finite amount of time, right?
Well, yes and no, because time itself is a limited thing, which you said earlier you don't necessarily believe, which is cool, but there was a beginning to the universe.
Why do you think so?
Because how can something exist before time itself existed?
Well, I think that
space and time are connected. Space and time are linked.
Yes, I think that space and time. I don't think that there was a first moment of space, a first moment of time. I don't think that there was a first time when space existed.
So you think that there was a moment before the Big Bang?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because that Stephen Hawking doesn't agree with you.
Stephen Hawking is dead.
That is true. That is very true. So he might not agree with you. Let's be fair.
Well, yeah, he definitely doesn't agree with me because dead people don't agree with anybody.
The man left a book. The man left writings. The man left
a brief history of time is about a brief history of time is like 30 years old now.
That's fair. That's fair. I got to admit, unfortunately, I am not up with what the big names are right now. I only listen to my science podcast, and yeah, my names get fuzzy. So
so Penrose, a compatriot of Stephen Hawking, won a Nobel Prize a few years ago. In some sense, arguably a better physicist than Hawking was. That's arguable, but regardless.
I'm not going to go to war to defend the man.
Penrose, still alive.
Yeah.
Very much an atheist, and thinks that the universe didn't have a beginning.
So he thinks that the void persisted before the Big Bang.
No, he thinks that there's been an infinite chain of universes.
Oh, okay. No, I've heard that theory before. That has ramifications of that kind of scare me, because I've also read papers that suggest that a proton has a half-life, which means that everything might just unzip.
Well, I mean, maybe, but we've never seen that. But also, that's irrelevant for the question of the universe having always existed in one form or another.
All right. Well, you have answers for the universe persisting before the beginning. So I don't think that we're going to have a productive conversation moving forward on that. So while I'm here, let me ask you, determinism.
Mm-hmm.
You believe our actions don't matter. You believe that free will does not exist.
So I think our actions matter insofar as they have influence on us and influence on our values. I do think free will doesn't exist.
This is something that's always bothered me because, I mean, the universe is better described as probability driven than it is by exact particle tracking, you know?
That depends on your preferred interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Fair enough, but I mean, anything that changes by observation and anything that is so fragile as cause and effect. A thing that I talked about, Joel reads the Bible with, was the concept of effective free will. The only way for the universe to truly be deterministic is to know all things and be omniscient yourself. So the only way for you to not have free will is to be God.
Well, wait a minute, hold on. have you heard of chaos theory? Is this something that you're like familiar with? You know, they mentioned it in Jurassic
Absolutely.
Park. Yeah, so
I'm
chaotic systems are fully deterministic, even if you cannot predict their outcome using any computer in the universe, right?
But chaotic systems are also so sensitive that the position of Pluto affects the break
Yes,
of a
but they are
pool
still
potato.
deterministic. So just because you don't know what the outcome will be doesn't mean that it's not determined.
But I'm also saying that you can't repeat the outcome, which means that you can't have a scientific basis on that in the first place.
That's a philosophical contention, not like a.
Well, we're
Not a
talking about the true
scientific one.
meaning of what it means to be a human being. You think it's going to be simple and not going to go into philosophy?
Well, no. All I'm saying, like, if you want to say that we effectively have free will in that we can't predict actions, sure, but that's not what I mean when I say free will. That's not what I mean when I say I'm a determinist.
Then what do you mean when you're saying
What
you're a
I mean
determinist?
is that the universe what I mean is that the given perfect information and perfect computational power, one could determine the state of the future of the universe given the state of the universe now.
Given the fact that our brains might be quantumly sensitive, given that Brownian motion exists, that there are physical particles that show physical movement towards quantum fluctuations, and our brain being definitely a chaotic system in and of itself, we take a look at that system, we take a look at the results of that system. You're saying that we can determine what the output is going to be?
Yes, so I'm a determinist, and I also take the many worlds interpretation seriously. Those two things kind of go hand in hand.
Okay, no, hey, there you go, okay.
So, yeah, I don't really have an issue with quantum randomness or anything in my worldview.
I feel that it's kind of baked in. I mean, the quantum randomness is part of the reason why I believe that the universe might be a simulation.
Well, but there is no randomness in many worlds, or better known as the Everett interpretation. There's just no randomness there.
It just all exists, just somewhere else.
Well, it's here. It's just orthogonal, which is a technical term. But
I always felt that was a cop-out. It was the same as people saying, oh, yeah, the infinite universes exist. We just happen to exist in the one where we exist in, which is tautology.
No, it's a very different statement. So the Everett interpretation is the Everett interpretation is what happens when you believe quantum mechanics is true, and then you don't add anything else. There's no extra assumptions baked in. If you just believe the math of quantum mechanics, and you don't add some weird stuff about if a human being looks at something, it magically collapses. If you don't add that in arbitrarily, then you get the Everett interpretation.
But so does the Everett interpretation explain the double slit experiment?
Yes.
How does it resolve that?
Well, that's explained in any interpretation, and it doesn't require human consciousness. But in the Everett interpretation, when your particle interacts with the external world or with the macroscopic world, it causes a branching. And so you'll have one branch where the particle goes left and one branch where the particle goes right.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I figured you were about to say more.
Nope.
I'm going to have to look this up because I run into the shore a number of times on this particular thing, and it still feels like a cop-out to me. It still feels like I don't want to solve the answer. I don't want to find the answer to this because it's too complicated. So I'm just going to create an unprovable statement that therefore allows me to continue on. Which I hope you can see the irony in this.
May I recommend a book that will explain it better than I can?
Absolutely.
It's called Something Deeply Hidden.
Fair enough. Something Deeply Hidden.
Yep.
Just writing that down. All right. May I suggest a book or an author to you?
Probably, but I won't read it because I don't have any time to read anything these days.
I highly suggest you read this guy because fully entertaining outside of religion and all of that. Terry Pratchett.
Oh, I love Terry Pratchett. I've read a lot of his work.
Good. Perfect. You'd be surprised the amount of atheists I have talked to who haven't. And it annoys me because ultimately we could have a very interesting conversation about the nature of what is real.
Do
Someone
you think the
earlier
Earth is flat?
was.
And on the
No,
back of
I
four
do.
turtles?
No, I really wish it was. Do I
Fair.
believe that do I believe that the Earth is just the sum total of the atoms that we have here? Not. I really don't know. Do I think that we're the only beings in the universe? Hell no.
Well, you got me. You got me on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. When I was saying that I had to grow, according to a lot of Christians, we have to be it. But if you study science, the one thing you learn about the universe as reflects to Christianity is Jesus said it best. It's not about you. It might be about us, but it's not about you. The universe is too large for it to be just about us.
I mean, I agree with you on that. But look, I am going to let you go because at this point we're kind of just shooting the shit. But thanks for being here,
Yeah,
man.
fair enough. You gave me something to look up here, and I certainly will. I was trying to work my way into a statement about truth is something that's made up. Justice is something that's made up. There's a lot of fundamental things that we talk about that is made up. Ultimately, I don't want to get that as the core conversation because I don't think God exists on the same level that justice exists. But I didn't like hearing that previous person talk about red not existing to a colorblind person and having that argument, which is so rich, be stated so crappily.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to let you go, but thanks for being here, bud.
You take care.
All right. Something Deeply Hidden is very good. Very good book. Look, I'm just a Sean Carroll fan, okay? Like, dude's just very good writer, very good communicator. Come on, open. There we go. All right, Ethan. What do you want?
Oh, I was just coming up. I thought we were taking turns making fun of the previous guest, like he was doing.
No, we're not. We don't do that here.
Oh, okay then.
All right, get out of here. Go on, get. Oh, he left. Okay, good. All right, let's talk to Pat. Hey, who the hell in Ian's Discord snitched on me for calling Ian cringe? Who do you think you are? Pat, how's it going?
Good. We've spoken before.
We have. Okay.
Yeah, it was on Ian's live, and it was a conversation that went very, very awry. But I digress. All right. So my point is, like, why do you believe in something that is when I say something, I mean the eternal universe? Why do you believe in something that's so contrary to the scientific evidence and observable evidence that we have today?
It's not. I don't know what makes you think it is.
Well, I mean, so like from an entropic perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
The eternal universe theory would continually increase the probability of disorder and chaos, and yet we find order within an increasingly entropic universe. So you have to assume that the laws which we have determined to be universal are not universal without any evidence, like the second law of thermodynamics.
I mean, like, complexity can arise even in a high entropy state. You can have eternal universes that continuously dump entropy into baby universes, and then those universes, the entropy gets split up, and then those universes can evolve. You can also just have a system that has an infinite amount of energy from the get-go, in which case it can increase while keeping the same amount of complexity. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we can get around the second law of thermodynamics if required.
Yeah, get around. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's trying
so
to get
far as
around
the second law of thermodynamics still applies, and yet you can still have an infinite universe.
Okay, but in tandem with the second law of thermodynamics, we also have mathematical theorems that prove, that any universe undergoing expansion can't be past eternal, right?
Yeah,
and
that's assuming that the expansion is eternal. Also, the BGV theorem actually has a critical error that was spotted like last year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I can link you to it. I have it somewhere.
hang on, sorry. Yeah, no, but don't you agree that there's a lot more observable evidence that suggests that the universe is finite than there is that it is infinite?
No, I don't think that there's any evidence that suggests that the universe is finite, either in size or in age. We have what we do have evidence of is that the universe as we know it, the current whatever our universe is currently, that had a beginning 13.8 billion years ago or so. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't stuff before that.
Okay, so like, but when you start to talk about the eternal universe and things like that, and essentially to contradict the teleological arguments of, you know, a call to intelligence that created order, you sort of are led to this multiverse idea, right?
Or a single universe that's cyclic. There's a whole bunch of different options. There's not like one. There's not one consensus on the cosmology, like at all.
Right, but there are two main branches of thought, which is single universe and multiverse, including, you know, what you said, the MWI.
Many worlds is not a multiverse.
It's not a multiverse. Okay, how is it different?
It's because there's only one universe in the many worlds interpretation. There's one universe. There's one universal wave function. That wave function can be decomposed into orthogonal eigenstates. That's all it is. The name many worlds has ruined the people's understanding of the idea, but it has nothing to do with the multiverse.
But I mean, what that does, to my understanding, and again, I'm only an engineer, not a physicist, so you probably know more about it than me. But to my understanding, that renders, like, we observe probability in our universe, and it's testable, it's repeatable, and sure. and that theory essentially renders it like useless. It renders it not useless, that it doesn't exist.
No, it just reframes it, right?
What do you mean it reframes it?
It just reframes our understanding of why that apparent probability is there, right? Like it reframes it, rather than saying that there is this probability that XYZ will happen, it's rather that there is a probability that we will find ourselves in this branch of the wave function, as opposed to that branch.
So, but you think that it's more likely that every quantum event that occurs infinitely multiplies the universe?
It's one universe, one wave function. There's nothing infinitely multiplying.
Infinitely
it's just decohering.
Infinitely multiplies all set of probabilities, essentially.
I don't think that. That's not what decoherence in quantum mechanics is.
So like, if you're talking about, let me understand, what's your interpretation of the multi-world?
You have one wave function. Okay. And when that wave function, like, you know, it's evolving over time, and when something in that wave function causes a macroscopic thing to interact with a microscopic thing, like described by the wave function decoheres. The entanglement that was in the subpart of the wave function that described the microscopic thing spreads out through the macrosystem, and it causes a decoherence event. So rather than having one macroscopic system and an entangled microscopic system, or a superposed microscopic system, that entanglement spreads out, decoheres, and you have two branches. It's the same wave function, the same universe.
Right, but it I guess, I mean, there's no scientific evidence for that. It's just a thought.
The scientific evidence for that is that the Schrodinger equation is true.
That would assume you would have, in order to put the imposition that the universe was eternal, you have to make that assumption as part of your.
Nothing to do with the eternality of the universe, by the way.
Yeah, no, I understand. We're talking about probability, but
no, yeah, like it's just a separate conversation, right?
Yeah, but I mean, my question is, if you are, like, with Occam's razor, in effect, I mean, again, that's a theorem that you typically base most of scientific rationale and thought behind. This goes very contrary to that. It's a much less elegant, much more complex, unnecessarily complex solution, and it's interesting.
It's not complex. It's more. It's the simplest possible explanation if you accept that Schrodinger's equation is true, right? If you add extra details, like, oh, when a macroscopic thing interacts with the microscopic thing, there's a magical event called wave function collapse that results because of magic, then you get the Copenhagen interpretation, the standard interpretation of quantum mechanics. But that's adding an extra assumption that observation does something magical.
So okay, so you basically can reconcile the wave function collapse with a single universe.
No, in the Everett interpretation, there is no wave function collapse.
So
if you
you're
introduce
saying
wave function collapse, then you get the Copenhagen interpretation.
Okay, and in the Copenhagen, I assume that's the one that you ascribe to?
No, the Everett interpretation is the one I ascribe to. The Copenhagen interpretation is the one where when you observe something, it randomly picks something, some probability, and then it does that. That's the Copenhagen interpretation.
Okay, so you're
I'm an
ascribing
Everett guy. Yes.
Okay, and the Everett interpretation. Well, before you said that it's all the same universe, right? So that would imply
one universe. One universe. The Everett interpretation stipulates one universe, one wave function. That's it.
And there's no but what becomes incoherent, and explain that.
What do you mean? What becomes incoherent?
Like what you mentioned before with coherence and how you introduce some level of disorder in that way.
Yeah. So what happens when a macroscopic system interacts with a microscopic system under the Everett interpretation? The entanglement or the superposition of the microscopic system spreads out throughout the macroscopic system. And then we can describe that process of the entanglement kind of spreading out. That's called decoherence. And when that happens, the macroscopic system essentially splits into two orthogonal states in the same wave function. But again, that's like an arbitrary delineation. Like there's not like a physical splitting of the universe. There's not a physical splitting of the wave. This is just like a way of describing what happens during the decoherence process.
So I think that, at least from my understanding of many worlds interpretation, that diverges from that theory.
No, this is exactly this is the standard Everett interpretation. And if you want to learn more about it, go read Something Deeply Hidden.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah,
you should.
Yeah,
Sean Carroll explains it better than I can.
I heard about it from this conversation, which to me is kind of it's recurrent.
It's a good book.
Recursive.
Most people who don't understand many worlds, the many worlds interpretation or the Everett interpretation, would understand it better if they read that book.
But my understanding of the Schrodinger's equation, which is far inferior to yours, I'm sure, but at the same time, it's you have to take the assumption of whether or not we have a finite or an infinite universe. It doesn't describe whether or not the universe is finite or infinite.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's completely unrelated. Although, interestingly enough, if you assume that the Schrodinger equation applies to the universe, and you assume that the universe has non-zero total energy, then you get that the universe must have always existed.
Non-zero, yeah, but that assumption of non-zero total energy is essentially just saying that we're in a big bounce, right?
No, it just means that the total energy isn't zero. Now there are issues with quantifying the energy of a space-time as a whole. That's like a conceptual issue that we haven't solved yet. We don't know if the Schrodinger equation applies to the universe as a whole. That's probably a reasonable assumption. So there's some issues with this, but again, like you can learn something about whether the universe has always existed by studying the Schrodinger equation.
You can, yeah, but it's all speculation at the end of the day, right? Because it's not.
Sure, that's not the evidence that I hang my hat on.
What evidence do you hang your hat on that the universe is infinite?
The DESI report
about the changing Hubble.
Yep.
Or what's the constant that you think is changing?
Well, it is the changing Hubble constant, yeah.
Okay. So, and did that increase or decrease?
Well, the acceleration is slowing down, at least according to this data.
Okay. wouldn't that but extrapolating from that it must reverse? Like it
Yeah,
must.
I mean that is the most naive extrapolation, but it's also the most parsimonious extrapolation that you can do. Now, it might be the case that it won't. It might be the case that it won't. We don't have that data yet. We're going to get more data in March. But I mean, the point is we now have data to suggest at least that the big crunch is back on the table.
It could
and
be,
there's
right?
also good reason to suggest that yeah, there's independent reasons to suggest that the universe isn't driven, the universe's expansion isn't driven by a cosmological constant.
If it weren't driven by a cosmological constant, then why would we assume that it's the big crunch is like more likely than what it is that we're observing?
If there is no cosmological constant, then and there's not some independent field that's driving the expansion, which maybe there is, who knows, then the inevitable conclusion of the Einstein field equations is that the universe would recollapse.
Sorry, say the beginning part of that sentence again.
Yeah, so if there's no cosmological constant and the universe's expansion isn't being driven by some other external thing that we've never heard of, that we've never discovered or described, then the inevitable conclusion of the Einstein field equations is that the universe will recollapse back to, you know, wherever it started.
Okay, but again, there's no observational evidence that supports that. The only observational evidence is the changing Hubble constant.
Yeah, there's theoretical evidence that supports it. There's good theoretical reasons to suspect that there is no cosmological constant.
But that's okay. I mean, it seems like what you're doing is you have an idea of what the universe is, and as soon as you get any data to support it, you're diving down that rabbit hole rather than, I mean, even if you just look at the number of theorems that are possible, I mean, the number that are possible. The number of proposed models for the finite/infinite nature of the universe.
There's a lot.
Right. But you choose that one on what basis?
I actually don't ascribe to any particular model.
Okay.
Although I think that big crunch is more favored by a recollapse is more favored by the evidence.
But don't you believe that the heat death of the universe, or don't you? There's more physical evidence of the heat death of the universe than there is for any other theorem.
There was before a year ago. There is, if the DESI result is correct, which we're going to hear back again in 2 months with more data, then the heat death is potentially no longer on the table.
Yeah, but that's one data set, right? So you're
the point is they're taking a new data set and they're combining it with all of the previous data sets.
Right. Okay. So, but my point is, do you see how that's kind of jumping the gun on saying, oh, well, now that's just as likely? It's like, well, not necessarily. It's just there's a possibility in there, but it seems like
what it means is that so prior to last April, heat death was generally considered as like
certain,
not certain, but very, very high, very, very like that was the dominant cosmology. In March, if it comes out that the data that they saw in April is maintained, and you know perhaps it's even more probable now, then cosmologists will have to reapproach because the heat death will no longer be on the table, or at least it will no longer be the dominant model.
Okay, but I guess we came to this last time we talked, which is basically like we don't know yet. But it's interesting.
But the data is leaning against heat death.
Isn't the data overwhelmingly leaning towards heat death, except for that one?
Yes. However, a slightly decreasing dark energy density is also consistent with the data. In fact, it's a better fit for the data that we have.
But why would a slightly decreasing dark energy constant indicate that a big crunch is more likely, even though we still have positive acceleration?
Yeah, so what it, I mean, we could go into the details of this, and like I literally wrote a paper on this this year, or this past year. But essentially, what it boils down to is that once you rule out a cosmological constant, which is what the DESI result would do, if it wasn't constant, then it rules that out, which means that lambda CDM is no longer on the table. And so then we have to start doing model building, try to figure out what's really going on. And it seems to me that that any model that we build that has a decrease in cosmological constant will either have to explain why that cosmological constant just doesn't increase again, which seems ad hoc, or it would be perhaps more plausible to explain that there's just no cosmological constant at all, and there's some alternative explanation that indicates why the apparent cosmological constant is decreasing. Like, this is like, and if we just take the data that we have and we take it seriously, the implication is that in the future it will decrease, it will reverse and recollapse. Now, if we get more data beyond that suggests that actually that won't happen, then fine, we'll adjust our views. But given the data that we have to run with it.
Well, but you seem okay. So first of all, you seem to run with it towards one direction out of many that it could go, and that direction also doesn't imply an infinite universe. You just take that for granted as well. I mean, because if it crunches, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bounce, right?
That's true.
So
sorry, one sec.
All it does is open the possibility of that, but the overwhelming physical evidence, like our observation of the increase in entropy of like all open systems, essentially, and I know like that there's a question mark thrown in there, right? But overwhelmingly, there's still and the scientific evidence points towards a consistently expanding universe, which would require a finite beginning to the universe. And I think that you're worried about the finite beginning to the universe because of the implications of causality that are therefore that would be found in there.
I mean, not really. Like, if you had asked me a year ago, I would have said, yeah, the universe had a beginning, and I didn't have an issue with that.
But what if that were the case? If it's shown for that to be the case, or if the in March when we find more data and the evidence leans towards that, what's the interpretation and causality for the beginning of the universe?
Yeah,
and that's where
there are universes, there are models like the Hartle-Hawking model that have acausal beginnings because they have beginning in like pseudo time, which is not really a beginning to begin with.
Right, like the what's south of the South Pole type of thing.
Yeah.
Right, but you see how that is that's inconsistent with our observation of the progression of time, the progression of the universe, that there was no cause to it, like the essence of reality. Because like the definition, a definition that of God that you would have to have if you were to believe in him, would be that he, in and of himself, is the essence of basic reality, right?
And I have no idea what any of that means, by the way.
Well, basically, it means that there is no reality without a God or an unmoved mover, essentially, which is philosophical.
Well, I mean, that's a claim. Why should I believe that?
Because there's a lot of evidence that points towards it in the code, in the the fact that natural, like, does it seem more likely to you that the universe itself, in its increasing entropy, would create microchips by itself, or
seems plausible.
There's an intelligent? It seems plausible that.
I mean, like, we are the universe creating microchips by itself, right?
Well, in your interpretation, it's by itself, but like, but all
Yeah,
that goes
there's no issue with that.
That goes contrary to most of our understanding of entropic natural behavior of the universe.
How do you figure?
How do I figure?
Yeah, do you think that like not engineers, do you think that like complexity can't arise during
when you have
progress?
when you have an input of a large input of energy, right? But what you're seeing with the human race is something that continually is inputting energy contrary to the entropy increase that you see everywhere else. Not saying that it's contrary to the idea of increase in total entropy, but rather it's a trend that's contrary to the natural what's the word, like observation of basic fundamentals, right?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, Earth has a lot of energy coming into it, right? Like we have a sun,
right?
So there's no issue there. And B, it's known that complexity is precisely the thing that arises during a process when a state goes from low entropy to high entropy. That's a thing that happens. That's just happening slowly on Earth.
Complexity arises when going
from low to high entropy. Yeah.
Okay. But also disorder, right? Arises, but by its very definition.
No, that's when you get to the high entropy state, right? But the complexity that happens in the middle, you can call that order, disorder, whatever. It's neither. It's not an equilibrium state.
But theoretically, with there is a theoretical situation in which humans continue to live throughout until the universe no longer supports life, right? Like,
sure, and we would just be furthering that entropy increase.
But locally, we would have a reduction in entropy because you could have atoms forming into
humans aren't reducing entropy. Humans are increasing entropy.
Yes, we're increasing entropy in the sense of the total universe is increasing entropy, but we have.
I mean, the entropy of the Earth is higher now than it was 1 billion years ago.
Yes, I agree with that, but okay. So, but why is there order and not chaos with like we're at that higher state of entropy?
There's not order. There's complexity.
So you don't believe that order exists?
I mean, order, like whether there's order or chaos, like that's a relative statement. Like you can have systems that are more orderly, i.e. lower entropy than other systems, or than the same system at some later time. Thank you for the glasses, by the way. But like that's a relative statement. I would say that the universe is, or that the Earth is complex, meaning that it has more complexity. There's more complexity on the Earth than there is on, say, Pluto.
So, but it's readily apparent that order and disorder exist.
Those are relative statements. Relative to what?
I mean, relative to our experience of a spectrum of order or disorder. But
you have to compare to something, right? So what are you comparing to?
Spectrum, right?
Like what are you comparing to?
I'm comparing to somewhere in. So like I said, it's on a spectrum. So like we can observe a spectrum of light, and it's like, oh well, that's all relative, right? Until you get to a point, but it still doesn't mean that the change along that spectrum, it doesn't exist, and therefore there is.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just asking you to define what you're saying that there is order. I'm just asking you to define. There is something that's orderly relative to what? Like, what is it more orderly than?
The rest, I mean, the vast majority of the universe?
I mean, I don't think so. Like, you could just go take like a cold lump of matter. Like, that's gonna be in some sense more orderly than Earth is.
Not in a okay, got it. I see what you're talking about, because you're talking about physically, but we also
Yes,
have.
If we're talking
Okay.
about entropy, then we're talking physically, right?
Okay,
That's what
got
entropy
it.
is.
Okay, got it. So, yeah, and I agree. Okay, so you got me there. But this idea philosophically of order, do you believe that exists or no?
I think it's a human conception that fails to Okay, there is a notion philosophically of order, and it was superseded by the physical notion of order because that's an actual rigorously definable concept. Otherwise, we're just talking about vibes.
But vibes are like, we get it. Like,
you're right. You convinced me. I'm a theist now.
All right, got him. All right, no. I'm saying the fact that we perceive the universe in such a way that allows us to derive order out of, or derive that spectrum of order versus disorder in a philosophical sense, then and use that to our advantage to navigate the universe and to do things like for example, have this conversation, exchange information across however far away we are. I'm outside your house, actually. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't live in a house.
Oh gosh. Anyways, to have like even like the humor that's there is like there's an order to it, and yes, it's our perception, but like there's evidence to us that we can derive from the fact that order exists. Like the fact that we believe the universe itself is intelligible is an indication.
That's a human thing. It doesn't say anything about how the universe actually is. By the way, Lou, thank you for the $5 subscription. I appreciate you.
Okay, so you don't believe that the universe is inherently intelligible?
I think that it is.
I
don't know why it is. I kind of just believe that it is.
Right. Okay. There you go. That's the crux of my point is, if you believe that, then you are now ascribing to these philosophical ideas of order versus disorder, and those philosophical ideas need to have.
I think that we can intelligibly describe disorderly things too. In fact, we do all the time, right?
Why do you have the faith that is the case? Why do
I think that the universe is intelligible?
Yes.
Because I fundamentally accept axioms, including induction, the reliability of my senses, and the existence of the outside world.
Okay, so that's essentially just saying you believe the universe is intelligible.
Well, that's a theorem that you can derive from the axioms I just gave you.
But that also is just pointing out the like observation of it is basically, oh, I observed that it's intelligible, right?
That's a theorem that you can derive from.
Why do you believe? Sure. But that decries a belief that observation of intelligibility in and of itself is possible. So it is dependent on the faith in that fact that the universe is intelligible.
No, it's dependent on three things that I just gave you. 1, the universe exists. 2, my sense data is somewhat reliable. And 3, induction works.
Why do you believe your sense data is reliable?
I don't think I have a choice in believing otherwise.
Okay. And why do you think you wouldn't have that choice?
Well, I tried and I couldn't. So
okay. So ergo, I mean that's indicative that. I mean, you see my point, right? It's indicative towards the idea that the universe is in fact intelligible, and to say.
But it's not fundamental. It could have been that the universe was not intelligible, and then I could still trust those senses, and I would come to the conclusion, oh, the universe is not intelligible.
Okay, but you are a person who, like, you're very your entire line of your industry. I don't know what to say. Physics. Being a physicist, you have to believe in the intelligibility of the universe.
Yeah. So if the universe wasn't intelligible, I probably wouldn't have been a physicist.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. We probably wouldn't have it. So that intelligibility is a faith-based.
No, it's derived from the axioms I already accept.
But that second axiom, remind me what it was.
That my sense data is somewhat reliable.
Yeah. That second axiom in and of itself is dependent on the faith statement that the universe is observable. Or sorry, intelligible.
Whether or not the universe is intelligible, if my sense data is reliable, it would just tell me whether it's intelligible or whether it's not.
What, your sense data is reliable?
Yeah, as in it tells me something true about the external world.
Okay, so therefore you have to accept that there is some sort of a intelligible truth to make that assumption.
If by intelligible you just mean a fact of the matter, sure, I think that the universe has facts of the matter. I don't think that that's like a faith-based position, that there is a state of affairs.
But ultimately what you're deriving is that the universe is intelligible, and therefore we can, I mean, that it gets to that philosophical construct that we were talking about how order, you said order was superseded by the physical, is that what you said?
No, this notion of like this kind of vibes-based philosophical notion of like orderly and disorderly stuff, we figured out what entropy is, and now we don't need that notion, that philosophical notion.
But you see, knowing what entropy is dependent on that philosophical notion, is my point. Because that philosophical notion,
entropy has like the definition of entropy has nothing to do with order. It's just kind of, again, it's like a theorem that you prove from the definition of entropy that high entropy corresponds to this kind of vibes-based notion of order.
The idea of an idea itself, like just the idea of what an idea is derived of that notion.
I don't think that's true at all.
How can you have intelligibility without intelligibility?
We're not talking about intelligibility, we're talking about order. Okay,
sorry. How can you have order in, I mean, but you are taught, like the mathematical and physical elements of entropy are by definition a subset of the philosophical notion of order, because they are contained within it.
No, they're not. They define it.
Okay, so I think, and this is just my argument, I think that it is incoherent to believe that the physical elements of that make up our reality are not subset of an abstract that we can observe, test, and reliably believe to be true, and that those things are in fact dependent on those very notions. And I think that that's readily apparent to you, to me, to everyone, just like moral law is readily apparent to you, to me, to everyone, just like
apparently
all these. Well,
that's a separate conversation, but apparently not.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Okay, not to everyone, yeah, but it's apparent to people, smart people, let's say, and then so I believe that your position is incoherent based on it doesn't stand against itself. It doesn't allow you to even assert, and you're frozen without those notions.
Wait, sorry. So I gave you 3 axioms. I just accept those things are true. Where's the incoherency?
If you accept, can you repeat the axioms, please?
Axiom number 1, the external world exists. Axiom number 2, my senses give me fairly reliable information about the external world. Axiom number 3, the inductive principle is somewhat reliable, meaning that I can use the past to infer the future.
Okay. Do you not see how 2 and 3 are essentially saying the same thing? They're both
okay,
they're both
then,
saying
then just treat it as 2 axioms rather than 3.
I meant that they're both saying that the basic assertion of intelligibility, they are essentially stating
you can derive the intelligibility of the universe from those statements. Sure.
No, not derive it from. They're dependent on.
No, you can derive it from those, right?
You have in order to make an assumption, to make those 3 assumptions, you have to believe in an intelligibility of the universe in order to make the assumptions. Because under what does reliable mean? It means predictable.
Reliable means that there will be concepts in my mind that relate to concepts in the external world. That's all that means. That are related in some way. I'm not saying anything about a predictability. All I'm saying is that my sense data, my senses convey some facts about the external world to my mind. That's all.
Why is there this connection between the physical and the metaphysical?
I don't know why. That's just a thing that I believe. Well, and I don't. By the way, I'm not.
Like,
I don't think that the mind is
why.
metaphysical. I think the mind is like physical. But
but you can't just say there's no answer to that question. There is.
It's literally an axiom. I accept the axiom as true.
But what is? I mean, truth in and of itself is derived of the fact that the universe is intelligible.
No, it's not. When I say true, I mean I believe it.
Okay, all right, got it. If you believe it, but
yes.
But now we're at a point where, to everyone involved, it takes it is, at least in my opinion, and again, this is an opinion, but it's at least apparent that it takes a similar amount of faith to believe in your stance than it does to believe in an unmoved mover.
Well, A, that's not the case, because you believe in all the same things I believe in. And you believe in one extra thing, right? But more than that, let's say that's even true. That's not a very convincing argument to say, oh, you believe just as much as I do. Okay. Why would that convince me to believe your thing rather than stick with the things I already believe?
Because mine's more coherent. Because
you haven't shown any incoherencies with mine.
I think that the way that your axioms are laid out are completely dependent on the basic assertion that the universe is intelligible. Reliable, you have to say that data is reliable. You have to say
all data being reliable means is that my sense data convey facts about the external world to my internal experience. That's all that means. Doesn't say anything about intelligibility.
I mean, that is a synonymous way to describe the observations that I'm making, the information that comes into me through my eyeballs, my touch, my that is reliable in that.
No.
I thought you
it doesn't
said
have anything to do with reliability. I mean, like, you can phrase it in terms of reliability in the sense that, like, the sense data is like an accurate transformer between the external and the internal, but it's not reliable in the sense of, like, predictable or whatever.
It's not reliable in the sense of
it's reliable in the sense that it's like a good translator.
Translator of what?
Of the external world to my internal experience.
And then you also said that you can induce. What was it?
Yeah,
inductive.
That inductive reasoning is, again, sometimes works often.
Okay, how is that anything other than saying things are intelligible?
It might
we
be.
can reason
if
things out.
you want to read that as the universe is intelligible, I mean, like, you could have induction, but still things be completely random, just in like a kind of like it could be the case that like let me give an example.
Okay.
So induction tells me that if I can see the sun right now, the sun it's dark where I am, but let's say that it was noon. If I could see the sun at noon, then I could reasonably be assured that the sun tomorrow will rise because it rose yesterday and I could see the sun yesterday. But if I see the sun right now and it disappears randomly, well, then I'd be like, oh, well, I guess it won't rise tomorrow. But that would still be like not like orderly or whatever.
See, I think in that you are implying an intelligibility.
I mean, maybe I am. If you want to read that third axiom as like an intelligibility axiom, sure, you can read it that way.
Okay, then the question therein is, why is the universe intelligible?
Maybe there's an explanation, maybe there's not. I accept it as a brute fact.
You're saying there's no explanation or there's no obtainable explanation, right?
Yeah, could be.
And I have an elegant answer for the explanation, which is that
your elegant answer adds more additional assumptions that have their own problems.
No, it's just derivative of causality. That's all it is.
It's
and causality
derivative of causality?
Yes, so
What does
it's
that mean?
consistent. It means that there would be a cause to the intelligibility of the universe. It means that
but what's the cause?
Intelligence is behind intelligibility.
So intelligence is behind intelligence, but that doesn't give an explanation. That's just saying.
No, but what it does
it's
is
not giving a causal link.
No. So if I'm to believe the universe is intelligible, which I believe you seated on your third axiom.
Yeah, if you want to call it that, that's fine.
Okay. And if I'm to believe that it's intelligible, then causality is real in that things have a cause.
Well,
right?
That's not true. You could have an intelligible universe without causality. I'm not even sure if causation is a real thing.
Okay. All right. Got it. So if you bring into question things having a cause, then I would agree with you. Okay, there's no way to prove this. However, I mean,
but like you could have an intelligible universe that is completely unchanging, and then there's no causality.
Okay, but I think yes, yeah, but we live in a universe where things change.
Right, but my point is intelligibility doesn't necessarily imply causality.
No, what I'm saying is within intelligibility lies the concept of causality.
No, it doesn't. Right? I just gave you a counterexample.
I'm not saying within intelligibility implies there has to be causality, because if there's no change,
but that's literally what you just said. You said within intelligibility there is causality, and then you said I'm not saying within intelligibility there has to be causality. Like
within an intelligible universe wherein there is change, there has to be.
I'm not even sure if that's true. Why should I believe that?
See what I'm saying? The things you have to say.
Well, you're trying to convince me of something. You should convince me of it rather than just being incredulous when I doubt you.
No, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying you're being rude. I'm saying you're being incredulous.
But I guess what I'm trying to do is point out the fact that I don't think you believe the thing you're saying.
Oh, well.
I think you believe that things have a cause.
I don't think you believe the thing you're saying. See, we can both do that.
Okay, all right. But you... all right. You believe in the fact that you have a PhD means you believe in basic causality. I mean, you can't not believe that.
No, I mean, I'm skeptical of it. Like I function as if it's real, but I am skeptical. Like I have questions.
Yes, you do act as if it's real.
Sure. Yeah. I think I kind of have it. I kind of think I don't have a choice.
But then, okay, you don't have a choice. But do real results? Do you have verifiable evidence that causality is real?
I'm not an experimentalist, so like I don't do experiments. But
okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's at least a correlation between causes and effects. That's the point. There's a correlation, but how do we know that there's actually causation, right?
Right. So my argument overall lies is a probabilistic one, where I believe that it is more it's probable that causality is a real thing in an intelligible changing universe, which we live in, and if causality is consistent within the system of the intelligible changing universe, then therefore the universe itself would adhere to causality, which would have to be a higher concept, which would the causality of intelligibility would be intelligence itself. And therefore,
hold on. That doesn't. None of you lost me after the second sentence.
Okay, sorry.
You kept saying therefore, and these weren't valid inferences, right?
Okay, all right. Let me try to restate it more simply. We have an intelligible changing universe.
Sure, we can. We have for the sake of argument. Sure.
Okay, you don't believe in causality.
Well,
okay.
I'm not going to say I don't believe in it. Like I'm agnostic. Let's say.
I would say that in an intelligible changing universe, causality is more likely than not, based on our observational evidence. And so it's more likely than not that for a intelligible universe, if causality is consistent in that in that universe, if causality is something that's applied to the universe in an intelligible sense, that therefore the intelligibility of the universe would have a cause. And that cause of intelligibility, the natural answer to intelligibility is intelligence itself.
Oh, is that just a word? That's just a word game, right? Intelligibility.
Well, it's a philosophical idea.
No, I mean, no, it's like a word game, right? When we say
It's like a
intelligibility,
code-
we don't
code-
mean literally requires intelligence, because you would say that the universe is intelligible even if there were no intelligences around to describe it, right? So the statement here that just because there's intelligibility, that's really just code for obeys or is describable by natural laws or something like that, right?
It's describable by code, right?
But that has nothing to do with the actual existence of an intelligence. Like they're separate concepts.
So if I were to say that the universe is intelligible is akin to the universe has a code, like our DNA has codes, right? Math exists. Math is.
I would say that it's describable that way, sure.
Yes, and I think that we all agree that the models that we have are like a code, and code.
No, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't agree to that. What? Not everything's a code, unless by code you just mean some sort of language describing something.
Right. Yeah, like a language, the model itself of the universe, this is where people think of simulation theory because they think, oh, well, a code that, like DNA has a code and that's all in the code and it's a computer or whatever. But my point is, if we describe the intelligibility, the way things work in the universe as adherent to some sort of a language or code.
I wouldn't say it's adherent to. What intelligibility means is it's describable by.
Okay. But if it's describable by that, you don't believe that it would fall within the patterns of a code. Like a video game is describable by the code. The experience the user gets on a video game is describable by a code. And so the experience we get is describable by a code, and that code is apparently existent to us in that we experience it, and therefore a code in a intelligible changing universe with causality implies that there is a coder to that
Wait
code.
a minute, hold on. So the experience that a person gets when playing a video game is not describable by a code, right? The cause of the experience might be.
Okay.
Obviously, the cause of the experience is the video game, but the experience is not describable by a code. So the analogy doesn't really work. It turns out that our experience
is describable by a code by the English language. I mean, you could describe it.
Oh well, that's not a code. The English language isn't a code. It's just a language.
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree that the experience that somebody has when playing a video game is describable. But that perhaps says more about the way that we describe things and less about the thing being described.
Right, but okay. So if I'm going to look at fundamentally talking about a code that dictates.
Stop saying. Are you a software engineer?
I'm not. I'm
okay,
sorry.
Stop saying code then.
Okay. Well, what if I was? Because I literally was about to talk about computers and software.
Well, don't, because you'll probably be wrong, and I'll be wrong too.
Okay, fine. Fuck. If there was I don't know how to say it. All right. I don't. What's another word that I can use?
Look,
please give me.
The point that I'm getting at here is that just because you can describe something with some set of tools, doesn't mean that those set of tools are intrinsic to the thing that you're describing.
But like a video game that has. People, okay. I have to use.
I'm going to jump off a cliff if you say video game one more time.
Okay. Fuck.
Look. Here's the thing. The reason why people think this way is because they have an experience with video games and they see an analogy. However, you would never say that like the experience of a rose is the or rather you would never say that a rose. What's a good example?
experience of color, maybe.
You would never say that love is what Shakespeare is Shakespeare. You would never say that Shakespeare is inherent to love. Like Romeo and Juliet is not. It does not define love.
Right.
It's just a description of what love is.
Okay. I guess I see what you're saying, but if it were to have any value, which to me apparently it has value because we're sitting here talking about it. If it were to have that, it would need to match up a little bit with what a higher fundamental truth of what love is, right? And so it implies a correlation between the descriptive. I don't want to say the words that's going to make you jump off a cliff because I don't want to be,
look. Here's the thing: the description of a thing is not the same as the thing itself.
The thing itself, right?
And,
I agree.
And we have no reason to think that they are the same thing.
Right, but the description of a thing is a thing, right? I mean, I guess, like the rules that dictate. I'm going to get back to intelligibility here because intelligibility, in and of itself, is a way to perceive the observational universe in a way that like to our advantage and we believe it's in line with truth, which is that there are fundamental truths to the universe, and those fundamental truths would imply that there's a causal. I mean, you have to.
Why does there have to be a cause for everything?
It's readily apparent, is what I'm saying, that everything is caused at some level.
Is the statement that everything is caused, is that caused?
I mean, there are many ways I could like go about that and say yes, or I could also say no. Right.
Well, the point is that you and I both believe in at least one thing that's uncaused, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So why does it matter which thing we choose to be uncaused? Why does why is your uncaused thing better to believe in than my uncaused thing?
I think a lot of it has to deal with intelligence, that this idea of intelligibility, and how I believe that the uncaused thing should have the attributes that cause an intelligibility, because that is, in my experience and an observational experience, a truth that things that are intelligible, like rocks that are arranged in a words or symbols or whatever, those are derived of intelligence itself.
Okay, so essentially what you're doing is you're saying, aha, salt, like sodium chloride, salt makes cube-shaped crystals, and therefore it must be designed by a cube-shaped being. Like, that's basically what you're doing.
Well, no, I'm not saying it has to be designed by a cube-shaped being.
Well, you're saying intelligibility must come from intelligence. I'm saying cube-shaped salt must come from cube-shaped beings, right?
But that's a ridiculous assertion, because that doesn't.
No, the point is the thing that's caused doesn't have to come from the same, or the thing that exists doesn't have to come from something similar.
Yeah, no, I don't agree that that's fundamentally true. Like, I can punch a hole in the wall. I could punch a hole in the wall, and that hole that I've caused is not the same, even in its.
So then why must the intelligibility of the universe come from an intelligence?
Because intelligence in and of itself, I would apply that statement to intelligence, and I think it's readily apparent to you and to me and to everyone that things that are intelligible in this universe are derived of something intelligent.
Well, that's not readily apparent to me at all. Like, I go out and I look at a crystal, and a crystal is some like nice intelligible thing, and to me it's readily apparent that just arose naturally.
But you don't apply that universally, because you look at a computer. I'm not going to say computer. You look at a video game. No, shit. You look at.
Look, I agree. I don't apply it universally. I have to use other mechanisms to figure out when things have intelligent causes, right? some things do seem to have intelligent causes, and that's based off of, you know, background knowledge. Like, I know that cars are built in car factories, and I know that people make car factories. So when I go and look at a car, I can infer, based off of knowledge I already have, that the thing that caused it was intelligent. But when I go look at a crystal, and I see, oh, that thing looks sophisticated and intelligible, but I have background knowledge about how those formed, and that's just like dripping water and stuff like that, then I infer that that thing doesn't have an intelligent cause. So yes, I don't apply that universally, because I don't think there's a universal way to determine what the cause is based off of the thing that you're looking at.
So, all right, here's what I think. I think that the fundamental reality of existence could either be intelligent, and that would imply that that's kind of like the definition of, you know, there's more specific stuff that we would have to dive into, which we can't. But it's either intelligent, ergo a god, an unmoved mover, or not intelligent, ergo an infinite universe that just is. I think that it's more likely that, based on causality, that it's the intelligibility of the universe is derived of an intelligence, and you don't. And those two things, I don't think that you could argue if you're gonna. Okay, I think someone on my side could argue that it's more realistic, but I think someone on your side could only say that either is equally probable, right?
I mean, there are. Look, so there are counter.
There's no way of knowing the difference, in your opinion.
So
right?
so there are. So yeah, roughly, but well, okay, no, that's not true. There are ways that you could tell. It's just we might not have that information. However, there are things that decrease the probability of it being your view, but these are separate arguments, right? At least under my worldview, they decrease the probability.
And I would say that there are things that exist that increase the probability of my worldview. Gosh. So at the end of the day, like,
you were going to bring up computers, weren't you?
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up computers, and someone's going to end up unaliving themselves. So I got to get off this thing. But I think I just want to throw in this. I want to question your stance that there's no cause to that fundamental aspect of the universe, because if you contemplate that, I think that it's readily apparent to anyone that intelligence is causal for intelligibility in anything that we observe, and that would apply to the universe.
All right, well, Pat, I'm going to let you go, because otherwise we're just going to go in circles, but thanks for being here.
Okay, I think we've run to the end, so
take care.
All right, bye.
I don't know if I have a meeting now. I was supposed to, but my meters are not getting back to me. So I'm going to bring up another guest. However, if I have to cut you off very quickly because my meted, get back to me and say, yes, we're having a meeting now, then I'll have to leave. But by the way, if you guys like what you're seeing, consider supporting me. Like, there's a link tree in my bio. There's a Cash App. If you're on YouTube, it's in the description. There's a Cash App, and it's a really cool way to give money to somebody that you don't know. So if you're gonna do that, you may as well do it to me, right? They're the metos. They're the people who do the meeting.
Hello?
Bubble, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Which god do you believe in, and how are you going to convince me of it?
Now, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to use science, if you agree.
Well, yeah,
okay.
No, but so
you
hold on. No, hold on. No, you have to tell me which one you believe in.
There is not a particular one, so I don't have a name for it, but I do believe it exists.
What properties does it have?
I don't know. Let's just say energy, right? You said the energy was already there and it already existed, right? That's what you said about the universe.
I don't think energy is real. It's not a physical thing.
Now, when you said the energy existed and it was already there.
Energy. I said the universe already existed. I would never say the energy always existed.
Okay, if that is the case, who created the universe?
I think it's always existed.
Give me an example of something that has already existed and always existed then.
The electron field.
The electron field?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
The electromagnetic field? Well, maybe not the electromagnetic field. Maybe the Higgs field?
Mm-hmm. And if you just said that the universe, right, has already existed, like, if it was the correct understanding, you said that it was already there, and then it shifted, it transformed, like this energy transformed to something else. And we don't know what caused this energy to transform to something else. Like, what was this big impact that made the energy transform to planets and everything that, like, it's now the reality, the planets and the galaxies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, like
if there was nothing.
There is a recollapse. Like one plausible explanation is that there is a recollapse.
Yeah, what caused the recollapse? No, what caused it? I want to know what caused it.
Gravity.
Yeah, but what caused gravity? There is no gravity. There is no mass, right?
Gravity is a description of an observed
phenomenon.
Who created
it's mass?
Not a thing that has a. It's not a thing that has
no.
a cause.
Gravity, like for my education, gravity. Like use mass to explain gravity. Like something that has no mass has no gravity, right?
Gravity is a description of what happens to things with mass.
Right? Yes or no? Yes.
No.
Related to mass, right? Related to
gravity is a description of what happens to things with mass.
Photons have no mass, right?
Yes, they have no mass.
Do they have gravity? Do they obey to gravity?
I was being a little bit cheeky when I said it's a thing that happens to mass. It happens to things with mass, energy, pressure, stress, and momentum. If you have one of those things, then gravity can happen to it.
And then what causes all these things, right? Like
those are just properties
if there's
of
nothing,
matter.
Like why does it have?
Who said there's
nothing? So we agree that there was matter. We agree that there was matter.
I think
right?
that some form of matter has always existed. Yes.
Then tell me, how was this matter? Like that has already existed.
I think it's always been there.
Like, what's your imagination? And what's the form of it? Like, how do you think of this energy and matter that always existed?
Well, we describe these things in terms of quantum fields, the electron field, the Higgs field, etc. And we say that matter is an excitation of these fields.
No, that was not my question. I didn't question you, like, how do you explain it? I said, why was it there? Okay. And why does it have to obey to some law?
I don't think that there's an explanation as to why it was there, because I think it's always been there.
Okay, then I just ask you, give me an explanation of, like, an example in reality, not in your. I'm not a physician. Like, I did not study what you studied. I said in reality, like in physical world. Okay, just give me an example of something that has already existed, because, like,
the universe.
I cannot possibly. Well, in that case, the universe is an exception, right?
Why would it be? Well, maybe the universe is the only thing that's always existed.
Okay, but if it always existed, like logically, because even if we use mathematics, you cannot get the number 1 if that there was always 0, right? Like you cannot get something out of.
I have no idea what that statement means. Nobody's ever saying that you get something out of nothing.
Okay, but the thing is that even if the energy, which you just said, was already there,
I didn't say energy, I said matter.
So you said matter was already there, right?
Yes.
And why would there be matter in the first place?
It might not have an explanation. It might just be that matter has always existed, and that's just the state of affairs of the universe.
And wouldn't it be logical to you that someone created this matter?
No. I don't see why that would be more logical than it just having always been there.
Well, to me, your reasoning is not very reasonable, right?
Well, I mean, look,
like, do you even listen to yourself?
Yeah, so let's say that you're right. Let's say that something created that matter. Well, then I would ask,
why is that matter?
Why?
Don't just say that. I'm not just saying I'm right. Yes,
What created
that's
that thing?
you're claiming. Yeah.
What created the thing that created the matter in your worldview?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, that was a question. Please don't answer it with exactly.
Now, you're the one saying that there was already... At first, you said there was no matter. And then
I
you
never
said
that.
there was matter. Yes,
I never
you did.
said that. You may have misheard me. Look, so in your worldview, who created the thing that created matter?
Now, if I would be okay to just say that there was
Can you
a
answer
creator...
that question, please?
Yes, like there was a creator that created, in my opinion, like for my understanding, it would make sense to say that someone created something.
Okay, then who created that thing?
Because if you just think... I don't have an answer for it.
Okay, well, I don't have an answer
just
for,
saying
for
that
how the
something
matter
was
got
already...
here.
No, just saying that just saying that something was already there does not explain who created it and why was it there in the first place. That's the problem.
Wait, but you can't explain who created your creator. So that's a problem too.
You can't either. You cannot either. You're just saying that it was already there.
We agree both of our worldviews have the same flaw. Neither
Exactly,
of us
they're
can
both
explain where
ridiculous.
stuff came from. So your worldview is ridiculous?
Well, let's just say that yours does not explain mine either.
What I'm saying is that neither
Do you know
of
what I
our
mean?
worldviews have an
You're just
explanation
saying...
as to why there's something rather than nothing.
Yes, but you're the one claiming that my worldview is wrong. Because you go live every day telling people...
What I'm telling you, not every day, by the way, it's 3 times a week. What I'm telling you is that I'm not convinced of your worldview.
Okay. Well, I'm not convinced by yours either.
Okay, I didn't ask you to come in here and be convinced by mine.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't see how science is giving answers to people just saying that something was already there in the first place. And it was obeying to some laws that was just there. Like, they agree that these are laws because they happen every time, okay? But at the same time, it was just coincidence? Like, is that what he's saying?
Nope, never said that.
Then what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that the universe exists. It has stuff in it. That stuff behaves in a certain way. We came up with it.
Exactly.
We looked at the universe.
Why does it behave in a certain way? No. Why does it behave in a certain way?
If you want me to answer, you've got to let me finish my sentence, okay? The universe behaves in a certain way. Who knows why it behaves that way? We came up with formulas to describe the way it behaves. That's my view. I don't know why it behaves that way. Maybe it's the only way it could have been. Maybe an alien created our universe on a floppy drive or something. Who knows? Oh, I don't know if she knows that she's muted. Bummer.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I was just saying, if you are observing that the universe or the matter is behaving in a certain way, and you're writing articles about it, and you just agree that there is order, like, wouldn't it make more sense that, the other guest was saying there is, like, the intelligence can explain this behavior, and like we need to have a purpose to it, because you cannot just say it behaves in a certain way and there is no purpose whatsoever.
Why does it need to have a purpose?
Because common sense. Like, let me just give you let me just give you an example. If we talk about cells, our cells, do something and it's very specific and it has purpose, right? It has purpose.
Well, we can say that they have purpose, sure.
Well, if the same thing applies, like the micro world and the micro world, it would make more sense to say that your universe itself has purpose and it behaves in a specific way.
So you're arguing by analogy. Otherwise it would be that just the universe would not
behave in any specific way, or like there would be no order whatsoever, and we
Why
would just
not?
have chaos, right?
Why
Because
why
that's
is
what you
why is
just
the
said.
default
You
position
said
chaos?
it's
Why
not.
would the
No,
default
no, no.
position
The
be chaos?
order. Now the thing is, we need to study and to focus on the order, like the thing that we can observe, not the thing that would be. It does not necessarily have to be so, because they're just deceiving.
Why would the
people.
default
No,
position?
that's just deceiving people, right?
Hey, so do you want to talk to me or do you just want to talk over me?
Okay, you can
either
talk.
one's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So why would the default position be chaos rather than order?
Well, I thought that science was studying the specific behavior of like the matter and everything.
Yeah,
so if we are studying it, okay, if we are studying it and we agree that there are some specific laws, and you know they keep repeating the same thing and there is like an explanation and everything else, it would make more sense to say that there is a purpose, right?
No.
Like
I don't
your
see how
claim.
you go. I don't see how you go from
Well,
it is
I don't see
describable
how.
with laws to there is a purpose.
Well, I just don't see how you're saying that there is no purpose makes my claim just non-reasonable.
I didn't say it makes your claim non-reasonable. You asserted that there is a purpose, and I don't believe you.
Why you don't believe me?
Because you haven't given any good arguments to convince me. You just
Well,
said use
you're
common
not
sense,
giving yourself
so
any good argument against it.
that's not how convincing works.
Yes? Well, I don't see anything that does not make sense. Like you just said before that there is, like
your
for
argument
some
was
cases,
because
we can
common
say that
sense.
there is no order, right? Yes.
Your argument was just common sense, but I
I'm
don't
talking
share
about,
that sense
I'm
with you.
talking about evidence. I'm talking about evidence that applies in every field. And you're just
so what
saying,
evidence
like,
points towards a purpose?
in every. Now, let me just say, as I said, our cells have this specific function, you know?
Yeah,
I think that's enough evidence to me.
Well, function
That's
and
enough
purpose
evidence
are
to
different.
me. If it's not evidence to you, no, I already gave you an example.
Function and evidence aren't the same. Sorry, function and purpose aren't the same thing, though. Right? Function is descriptive. Purpose
They're
is...
correlated. They are correlated. I think
telos.
they are correlated.
Why? Why do you think that?
Well, I don't... What do you mean why I think that?
Why do you think they're correlated?
If you have eyes, and your eyes basically have a purpose, you know, you use them to see, and everything else.
They have a function, not a purpose. At least we don't know if they have
Listen,
a purpose.
you can replace the word function to a purpose, and you just give me the analogy in your opposition. Okay?
No,
just
purpose
tell
and function
me.
are different. I agree that there are things in the universe with functions. Sure. Functions is just a way of describing like a, you know, some efficient way of behaving, right? But purpose implies a purpose giver, a telos, and I don't see why I should believe that there's that.
I said they are correlated. That was not my first
I don't even know
claim.
if that's true. Why should I believe that they're correlated, that function and purpose are correlated?
Because it makes sense, right? Do you agree that it makes sense?
No.
Do you agree that no?
No, you have to defend that position.
Like you're just saying that, let's just say your eyes are there for whatever reason whatsoever, and their function has no purpose, right?
Yeah, there's no purpose.
Yeah, that's your answer.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless you can convince me that there is some telos, why should I believe that there's a purpose?
So you're just saying that your own
they have a
eyes
function.
have...
The function, their function is because they have
so
the function they
one...
have.
Okay,
Please.
okay, let's just say
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. They have the function they have because it made my ancestors more capable of surviving.
Okay, so your eyes have this function, right? Whatever. But you're the one giving them a purpose because you decide what to see and where to go. And so in this case, you have this free will, right?
Well,
and you're giving them a purpose. Well, if you just mention your ancestor and the whole point of evolution was survival, why do we have intelligence in the first place? Why
because
are you there?
It makes us really, really good at surviving.
I don't think that's the explanation. In that case, we would just be like, oh, we have enough food. We don't have to worry about anything else. Why are you even worrying about the laws of physics?
So intelligence is what allows us to, I don't know, do
Yeah, what is
agriculture.
intelligence? What is intelligence?
The ability to process information and synthesize that information to solve problems, perhaps.
Okay, and you think the evolution is the answer to it?
At least it gives a pretty convincing answer. I mean, like, and this is like obvious if you consider how good we are at, like we dominate the planet now because
I
of
don't
our
see
big
a purpose in
brains.
evolution.
There isn't a
Excuse
purpose.
me,
There
I
isn't
don't
a purpose
see.
there.
There isn't a purpose there.
There isn't a
Then,
purpose.
if that is the
It's just a thing
case,
that
you're
happens.
the one saying that there is no purpose to life whatsoever.
Yes,
so
I am
I don't
saying
want
that.
to be rude, but sorry.
I am saying that. You're right.
Okay, so I don't want to be rude, but what's stopping you from killing yourself?
Because I am evolutionarily inclined to not do so.
Sorry?
I'm evolutionarily inclined to not do so.
Are you?
Yep.
If evolution
I
has
have
no
an aversion to
purpose,
that.
then why are you? If evolution has no purpose, why are you trying to survive in the first place?
I don't have a choice.
So you don't have free will?
No, I don't think I do. I don't think you do either.
I expected more from you. Okay.
I expected exactly as much from you.
Well, I don't know what you're expecting since there is no purpose. So.
Sorry.
So how do you convince? No, I just said if there is no purpose to our conversation, like you wouldn't have expectations, right?
I can have expectations even if there's no purpose. Those two things aren't related.
Really? I think they are related.
Okay.
So what is like, you said that you need something to believe that there is God, right? What would...
Yeah, I would like to be convinced. Yeah.
Okay, and like science is convincing you otherwise?
No, well, I mean, science, yes, and, other reasoning methods, yes. It's a whole bunch of different things.
Like what?
It's the
Like what?
cumulative case. Cumulative case, that's the word.
Okay, can you just mention some of these things that are convincing?
I mean, like, there's this problem from atemporality, namely that it seems to be nonsensical to suppose that a thing that exists outside of time can take actions. That's kind of weird. There's also problems with more traditional conceptions of a god, like the problem of evil. There's good probabilistic arguments, or rather good abductive arguments, that we don't really need this sort of god to explain the world that we live in. We can explain basically everything naturalistically. So there's good abductive reasoning to think that there isn't a god. Like, it's a cumulative case. There's a lot of things going on.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you just said that time started with the singularity of Big Bang or whatsoever, then we go back to the same problem. Like,
I don't think that time started with the Big Bang.
What do you think then?
I think that it's always existed.
So time was one of the things that has always existed?
Well, yeah, time is part of the universe, so yes.
I think that we measure time because we can see objects moving, like the moon and the sun and everything else. If there was nothing there in the first place, there was nothing to measure. There was no movement, so there was no time, right?
Well, I think that there was stuff that existed in the first place.
Like?
We've already been over this.
Just matter.
Yeah, matter.
And what was the state of this matter?
Depends on what model you're using. There's a whole bunch of different possible options, but it could have just been normal gases and stuff in a previous iteration of the universe.
I just don't see how gases could form like solid troops.
Well, that would require an understanding of relativity, for example, like general relativity, to understand how gravitational collapse happens. But look, Bubble, it was lovely, but like I said, I do have a meeting, so I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna end the live.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for being here, Bubble.
No worries.
Take care. Look after yourself, okay? All right, to everybody who's watching, I do have to end the live because my meeting, which was supposed to start 20 minutes ago, is starting soon. So, I will see you guys tomorrow. We might do more of this topic, might change the background a little bit, but roughly the same topic. And I will see you guys then. If you haven't subscribed, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to do that. If you haven't followed while watching on TikTok, make sure to do that. And take care.